Making this mistake.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, I've got to be honest, it's just gone 6 o'clock on Tuesday morning. I sat here last night waiting for the call from Downing Street. It didn't come, and we're still in place. I mean, we're still in place. It's a miracle. Good morning. Welcome to Talk Breakfast, of course, the home of common sense and the home of you, my dear, dear alarm clock Brits, the people whose views on the news are all important as ever. I'm going to say the A-team. Damien G-Spot, we can't find him, but if you would like to call, we'll try and get hold of it. 0344 499 1000, 0344 499 1000. Don't forget the voice notes. I've got a change today. There's a prize for the first voice note. It's overnight oats with banana. I don't know why Mrs. Carr's making me eat things that are healthy. Pudding overnight oats. Probably make me look like an oat. Anyway, if you'd like to make a voice note, 0344 499 1000. Big marks on the buttons. And the woman that keeps it all together, Neha, she gets no respect, but she should get a lot more. She is the Queen. Text to 87222. I'm not going to lie. Christian goes, the listeners don't care. I do. It's bloody roasting again. The air conditioning's gone to what's it? And we're sitting here. We should be in shorts the way it's going. I half expect... Anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. Yesterday, what a day that was. How does one describe yesterday? New dawn, a new day, a new era. You're waking up to a new Prime Minister, of course. Andy Burnham arrived in Downing Street. He didn't, actually, to be fair, wear espadrilles and a pair of shorts and arrive on his penny farthing. He pledged to bring hope. In my heart am I dreaming. And the biggest changes in politics in 40 years. Listen, I'm a patriot. I hope it works for him. I have to say I'm going to talk in great detail about the changes that he made. I thought John Healey was the plus. I think that's a great shout for Chancellor. I'm slightly worried about MI6 being under the control of Ed Miliband. I mean, James Bond wouldn't have a car that goes fast enough anymore, would he? And it does go without saying, we're a nation of forgiveness, but your housing secretary and the lady in charge of devolution didn't pay enough stamp duty. Your business secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, claimed falsely on his CV to be a solicitor when he's not. And perhaps the biggest of all is the enforcer, the number two, the woman who basically will run Burnham's government is Louise Hay. The one that used to have red hair and is a fraudster, convicted. But there you go. So all of that, and your thoughts on that. I just, and I've said it many times on this show, I wanted him to talk about immigration. I wanted him to talk about the welfare benefits budget. I wanted him to talk about net zero and drilling. I wanted him to talk about the problems with the grooming gang inquiry. But no, Andy Burnham did out of the Manchester mayoral playbook. He started with the same thing he did 10 years ago there. He said, today, I'm going to stop rough sleeping. Can I just be honest? That's a great sentiment. It is a disgrace, and certainly every person in government should look themselves in the mirror. But here's what happened in Manchester. He said the same on the first day he became Manchester mayor, and 7 years later, it had doubled. Just bear that in mind. 0344 499 1000. We'll also talk about... well, there's lots of stuff in the news, but perhaps my least favourite story of the day is a court has ruled that an Eritrean migrant who had a protruding Adam's apple and a 5 o'clock shadow was in fact a child. Bloke's about 40. Court have decided he's about 12, so we can say. Also, an ongoing case, but news overnight that a 28-year-old man has been charged with the murder of Anne Widdecombe. Police say that Joshua Kerry has been charged with a single count of murder. The Tory minister, of course, found dead at a home in Hayter in Devon a couple of weeks ago. He will appear before Westminster Magistrates Court today. Because that's an ongoing case, very, very important we do that correctly. Now, in a change to the schedule, we thought this is... But I'm very excited about this. A man bringing clarity, decency, humility and a linen jacket. Very good morning, Benedict Spence.
Good morning.
Never seen you at this time of the morning, Spence.
It takes a lot to get me out of bed. Or somebody else's bed.
I was going to say, it's very nice to speak to you, but you're not in some stranger's flat with your hair all over the place.
I like that this is a consistent thing where I keep on saying yes to coming on your show at the least opportune moments because I'm not in my flat. Oh, no, I had to sleep in my own bed last night. I got to bed at a very good time. I was very well behaved. You know, it's a bright new dawn. Start on the front
new
foot.
era.
Yeah, start on exactly how you mean to go on. Which
What
is
did you
alone.
What did you make? I mean, let's just hear him. This is and Andy. Of course, the biggest change was no podium yesterday. Burnham spoke from the heart. Biggest change in politics in 40 years. Have a listen.
We will make this moment a circuit breaker for Britain, bringing forward the biggest changes in the last 40 years. A new political model and a new economic model. In the 1980s, Britain took some wrong turns. Political power was centralised, economic power privatised, large parts of the country deindustrialised, and they still haven't recovered. Many feel as though they're still in decline, and they don't have the ability to turn things around, and that's why we will change politics.
Change, circuit breakers, the world's going to be a different place, but absolutely no detail on how he's going to do it. I'm not being cynical, I'm a patriot. I'm glad Starmer's gone, I'm glad Lammy's gone, I'm glad Rachel Thieves has gone, right? But cynical or hopeful?
Cynical. I mean, you have to be at this point. He has given us absolutely nothing to suggest that anything will change. Listen, if you hear a Prime Minister talking about the difficulties that things like deindustrialisation have brought, that's a very positive thing because, you know, for years now, all we've been hearing in terms of industrial policy from Prime Ministers is basically a nod towards net zero. It's been an idea that actually industry is a bad thing because, I don't know, it makes the sun hotter or something. So it's nice to hear that somebody, and, you know, fair enough, it may have taken a Prime Minister from the north of England to come out and say, actually, yes, London might be the driving heart of industry in this country now, but it didn't always used to be, and there is an alternative for that. And that will have knock-on effects for all sorts of people who are now on intergenerational unemployment. Their grandparents, their parents, them now. That's how long it's been. But as you say, no real detail. The only thing that he was specific about was ending rough sleeping, which nobody is going to sit here and say that's a bad thing.
Nobody at all. It's a good thing.
But it is a downstream issue of so many things that require major intervention, which I don't trust a Labour Prime Minister, or for a very long time, frankly, a Tory Prime Minister, to get to grips with.
To me, that was a soundbite, like circuit breakers.
It's to make you feel fuzzy and warm.
I get that, but I do also believe, right, you can talk about changing politics, but you need to hit the ground running. But more than that, you need to understand that the British people have had enough, the silent majority. There's about 4 or 5 things they really care passionately about. If you had a brain cell in your head, you would have talked about those. Beth Rigby, who I love even more on a daily basis on Sky, she's fantastic. She then said to him, what many people are going to say, you ain't got a mandate, mate. Have a watch. This is good.
You said on Friday in your speech as you accepted the Labour leadership that you want to deliver the biggest change in our politics in 40 years. It sounds like a massive ambition for which you do need a mandate beyond the 25,000 people who voted for you in the Makerfield by-election. When are you going to call a general election?
Well, we're in a parliamentary democracy, and as we've seen through time, if somebody can command the majority of the MPs in the House of Commons, obviously they then have the legitimacy to lead things forward. And I will lead forward consistent with the manifesto.
Didn't Andy Burnham repeatedly call for a general election when Rishi Sunak replaced Liz Truss and when Liz Truss replaced Boris Johnson? Did he not?
Yeah,
I'm sure there are tweets.
He did, and your boy, Jacob Rees-Mogg, actually pointed out
My
that
boy!
Do you
remember that? Does anybody remember the first time I've got to tell this story because it's brilliant, because this show's a little bit more light-hearted in the first hour. Jacob Rees-Mogg, the first time I met him, was in total awe of interviewing him, and I said something like, how's the nanny with all the children? He went, I haven't bloody well married mine yet, Kyle. And he put me I know. Benedict said he spewed his tea everywhere. Yes, I married the nanny, but it's a long story. I want Burnham to be a success, but and I have to say on a positive front here, I thought the Healy thing was genius.
Yeah,
I want to say that. I thought that was good.
Why did you think it was genius? Specifically because it means that there may be more money for defence?
Think about a man who resigned from the last government saying, because defence worries people in this country, saying, you, Starmer, Do you remember him?
Yes.
Yeah. You've promised this, you haven't fulfilled it.
Yeah.
In my mind, that was the best thing that Burnham did yesterday, because what he is going to do is say, you wanted the money, you go and find it.
Yeah.
I'm ticking that box. There's this on the screen, by the way. Andy Burnham, we need to start demanding a general election at the end of this Tory leadership election. They were all elected on a manifesto promised to level up the North, and they're all abandoning it.
Two things, separate things. So, Jacob Rees-Mogg, in response to that, said, because, you know, listening to Burnham's answer to why he doesn't think he has to call a general election, Jacob Rees-Mogg pointed out, well, technically, for instance, you're allowed to have prime ministers from the House of Lords. It doesn't mean that it happens. Doesn't mean that anybody would accept it. And the good thing about an unwritten constitution is that it can evolve.
Yep.
This may be what Burnham says true about how the system currently works. That doesn't mean that it can't change, and that now we live in a situation where people demand much more accountability from their politicians, including, if such a change as happened yesterday happens, that they should perhaps go to the people and ask for that mandate. On the subject of John Healey, it goes, I think, further than that, because I do think that that's right, that he's basically turned around to the man who put the final nail in the Starmer coffin and said, right, well, how are you going to solve this? There is a little interesting addendum with that, which was that apparently he offered the job of Defence Secretary to Rachel Reeves. So you'd have had an interesting situation where John Healey would be turning around going, look, I've got more money for you, and Rachel would have been going, no, you haven't. Put it back. I don't want it.
He offered it to Rachel Reeves.
There was a joke going around that he might have done,
No.
yeah. But more the point, actually, I think, with John Healey is, I think he's a leadership contender. I think he would have been a leadership contender had Burnham not been able to stand. And I think that putting him in number 11 neutralises that threat in case things start to go wrong, because they come as a pair. Nobody would have looked at Rachel Reeves and thought she could take over from Starmer because she was just as responsible for everything going wrong as he was. The same thing now happens with John Healey. And I think that there was a possibility, still think there is, to be honest, of a two-man ticket when it comes to Healey, the other one being Al Carnes, who I still think is on manoeuvres.
Did
even
he get
after.
a job?
No, I haven't actually checked to see if he did get a job. I saw the big names, but I'm almost certain that Al Carnes will get a role. He's very competent, and he's very well thought of as Minister for the Armed Forces. He was, anyway. And he also was seen as principal. But those two come as a partnership.
Where's Streeting got the defence? So if you don't know by now, Healey Chancellor, Ed Miliband, Foreign Secretary, which is what I have been saying. Oh, hold on a minute. He's hit the ground running. Let's do it. It's 6:15. Breaking news from number 10. Breaking news. You're not pushing the button. Prime Minister Andy Burnham has just announced a fresh tax cut to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills from October the 1st. It's good.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So if you're waking up this morning, the new PM has announced a fresh tax cut to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills from October the 1st. That's a good... That's a big part. Don't know how he's paying for it. We'll find out later.
I was going to say.
Where's that coming from?
It means somebody is going to pay for it somewhere, so let's not all go
At 7
fantastic
o'clock,
just yet.
he's raising taxes on you, but there you go. That's a nice thing.
Yeah, no, I think that... And also, do you know what? It shows he is somebody who's ever so slightly better at politics than Keir Starmer. What was it that Keir Starmer said? Like, basically the first couple of days he came in, we've put far too many people in prison, so we're going to have to release more of them, and it's going to take about 10 years to solve everything. Andy Burnham, on the other hand, has come out and gone, I'm going to end rough sleeping, and I'm going to give you a tax cut. Even if it means a difficult decision down the line, it's a positive start.
So for all you cynics out there who hate the Labour Party and would never do it, honestly, let me know what you think. He seems to hit the ground running. It says here, Prime Minister Andy Burnham has just announced a fresh tax cut to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills from October the 1st. Dave says, morning, Jess. So Healey has been made Chancellor. We now get the armed forces the money they actually need, having resigned over the lack of money. I won't hold my breath, says Dave, who says he's going to miss Keir Starmer's breakfast clubs. Lovely. Yeah, it's all flashing up. Burnham announced his cut to taxes on electricity. Jez, says Anthony, Burnham said that him being PM will be a circuit breaker for Britain. I thought a circuit breaker was designed to isolate and switch off. It's Tony and write it. Yeah, great, well done. Guys in Scotland. Have you been to Scotland?
Yes, I have, actually.
Yeah, shooting and the grouse season.
I literally have, yeah.
I knew. He's as posh as David Mitchell. Burnham's circuit breaker for Britain. He'll take us back to the 70s, a more broken Britain and the total collapse. All talk, waffle, all spin, no policy. But already you can see that you're right, that he's better at doing politics than that one before. What was his name again? Yeah, anyway. Keith's in Nottingham, so Burnham has put together his new cabinet. I got myself a new cabinet once. I bought it from MFI and only lasted till Christmas. Like it. Bill's in Cheshire. Morning, Bill. Andy Barnum's new circus. The greatest show on earth, coming to an empty field near you. A brand new troupe of clowns guaranteed to make you laugh and then cry. We hope you like the show, even though you never voted for it. Good morning to Who is this? Mark. What a joke. The man who went drill for oil and gas will now be flying around the world in posh planes, polluting the planet. We don't know whether he'll actually drill or not. Pete. So Starmer said Rachel Reeves was the first female chancellor and a role model for girls. Also remember his mate Peter. I'm glad they've all gone. Good morning to Joanna as well in Salisbury. Let's just look through several of these quickly. Healy, we've talked about. Miliband. Out the way or what?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much sidelined. I mean, it's a bit like when we put Lammy into the same position. It does mean that we get...
Who?
Do you remember? Like,
Calamity. I'm
yeah.
sorry. Lovely. Bye.
It's a funny thing, though, because Foreign Secretary, I think, is one of those jobs that isn't real anymore.
No.
It's actually become something... The Prime Minister basically does all of that. He is basically now a glorified diplomat to be sent to the places that the Prime Minister doesn't want to go. Starmer loved doing the international thing.
Yes.
He took all the gigs that the Foreign Secretary might otherwise have liked to have done.
Yeah.
Foreign Secretary is just there, actually, if anything, probably stepping at PMQs sometimes when Starmer wasn't there.
Is he the Deputy Prime Minister? Do we know who the Deputy Prime Minister is yet?
Not off the top
Is
of
it
my head,
Louise
actually.
Haig? We don't have
it's
one
not
yet.
Louise
That's
Haig,
interesting.
I don't think.
Shabana Mahmood stays as the Home Secretary. Wes Streeting, at about 11 o'clock last night, having been left waiting all day, is the new Defence Secretary.
What I would say about that is I think Streeting is better than the average minister at getting things done.
I agree.
For which reason I would have kept him at health. Because
I genuinely thought he might be the Home Secretary. I
think Mahmood makes sense. I think Mr. Shabana Mahmood makes a lot of sense. I think it calms a lot of feelings, because he could have come up with something really disastrous. But keeping Shabana Mahmood there is a good thing, I think. It will be good for the for defence to have somebody who's more competent in there in Streeting. But I did think relatively he was doing a good job with health. It had become less of a sort of a frontline issue.
Yeah.
He was talking about, changing it up, frankly, modernising it, streamlining
And he
it.
was. Let's give Wes Streeting credit.
Yeah.
He was the first minister to show his hand against Starmer, whilst the rest of them were playing games, and I suspect that will have an impact, really, on where he was seen. Jeremy, morning. Peter in Malaysia. Oh, rough sleeping. Yes, we all agree, but where will people go? Our illegal migrants are going to get most upset if the homeless start nicking their £250,000 homes. That's absolutely true, see?
A significant part of the rough sleeping issue is, in fact, illegal migrants. I mean, that's part of the problem. Yeah, there was a great big tented...
Really?
There was a great big tented encampment on...
but you don't hear about a rough sleeping Brit who's fallen on hard times being given a £250,000 house, do you?
But this is a very different kind. We're not talking about people who say that they come from Somalia or whatever and that they're fleeing war. What I'm actually talking about here is people who come specifically to commit crime. These were people who engaged in pickpocketing and that sort of low-level theft. A lot of them are rough sleepers, deliberately so, not because they're downtrodden, but because it means that there are fewer eyes on them. There was a great big sort of encampment of these people outside Park Lane. I think whoever it was...
Samara Gill, once she got attacked.
Did an investigation there. Because they're there illegally, they're there for nefarious purposes, and they absolutely want to be out in the open because it's easier for them, it's more manoeuvrable.
Cliff in Berkshire says, it'd be interesting to see what the market's reaction to the new Chancellor will be once they open. Two phrases which always frighten me when I hear a politician say them. I am clear and a more fair society. Morning, Pete!
Good morning, Jezza. How on earth is Andy Burnham going to solve rough sleeping? He can't even do it in Manchester. You only got to look at that Piccadilly Gardens place to see the amount of homeless there that sleep rough, that he didn't do anything to help. So if he can't help in one city, how can he help do it in a whole country?
Voice notes always welcome. 0344. I'm doing it on air, I don't care. 0344 499. I've got my fan out again. It's roasting here. There you go. Look at that. Is that all right? You don't need one, do you?
No, I don't. No.
Yeah, you look... How have you got a... Do you think I'm going through the menopause?
Is that a thing?
Well, I think I've made it a thing.
Oh, I see.
Don't put it near the
I was going to say,
microphone.
is this the first step on you transitioning that you realise that you're going through?
Oh, what? To what?
You're having the menopause, even though you've not actually gone through that.
I'm tomorrow, the breakfast show with Mary Kyle. That'll be fun, won't it?
Julia's going to go berserk. She's going to walk in and see you and go, "Gah!" No, absolutely not.
No comment. 0344 499 1000. So a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new era. Burnham is in power and he's hit the ground running. He has just announced at 6:15 a fresh tax cut to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills from October the 1st. That will go down brilliantly.
Yeah.
The cynics will say, how are we going to pay for it? Jez, interesting. Nicola in Norfolk, that Burnham has used a Brexit freedom to remove VAT from electricity bills, but I'm fairly sure that it won't be possible to do that in Northern Ireland because they're aligned to EU rules. 6:21. Talk Breakfast is on. Benedict Spencer's here. If you want to be involved, get your calls, get your texts. We're back in 3.
I spoke to the Chief Constable of Devon and Cornwall Police 3 times. I spoke to the Prime Minister as well, and those calls took place over Friday and Saturday, and they both told me it's a burglary that's gone wrong. I said, no, it is not. A burglar does not park his car on your drive and walk into the house. And I went to Dartmoor on Saturday and I said, I have no doubt this is a premeditated murder.
I believe in all of you, and I am confident we can do it. Thank you very much, James.
Pass me the sick bag.
Across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Quebec 6:25, and in a change to the advertised programme, Benedict Spence in his linen is here reviewing the papers and giving us his wisdom. The man who left his own bed this morning, ladies and gentlemen, to make it to the studio, which is in fact a shocking moment, because usually I phone him and put him on Zoom and you could be anywhere, couldn't you?
I often am anywhere.
Yes, well, there we go.
Welcome to Burnham's Britain, where we're all far more morally upstanding than we were 5 minutes.
You're not.
No.
Morning, Jane.
Can we have someone calculate these figures? All the people that Keir Starmer got rid of during his parliamentary term that got payouts, like Mandelson. Angela Rayner got a 17,000 for stepping down. I wonder if she's repaying that now she's back in the cabinet. Or if they sack her again, will she get another 17 grand when she leaves again?
Yeah, interesting. Let's talk about the contentious things, because whenever a Prime Minister comes in, whenever somebody exceeds to the throne, they're going to make decisions that some people will attack, and certainly the Daily Mail have gone straight for the fact that, I mean, it's an interesting front page. On his first day as Prime Minister, Andy Burnham vowed the biggest political changes for 40 years, refused to rule out yet more tax kites, but a convicted fraudster in charge of his leftist agenda and made Ed Miliband the Foreign Secretary. But thankfully not the Chancellor. Let's pray he knows what he's doing. OK, so let's talk. Healy, we've talked about Chancellor. We've talked about Miliband, Mahmood and Wes Streeting. Yvette Cooper, a demotion to Health Secretary. McFadden stays. But let's talk about Louise Haigh. I mean, Louise Haigh, by anybody's... And by the way, this will shock you all, alarm clock Brits. And I'm not just saying this because I went through what I went through. People will make mistakes, right? And we're supposed to be forgiving. But this woman, right, and if I could just say this, she is a convicted fraudster and she made a mistake, but she's never fessed up. In fact, she didn't tell Starmer. My problem was that she didn't say at the time, yeah, listen, I messed up and I was too young or whatever. Apparently Starmer didn't know, which sums up how bad he was at politics. But Louise Haigh, appointed Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, also First Secretary of State. She is his enforcer. This woman has come from nothing. She ran his Makerfield campaign. They say that running the Cabinet Office, this woman will be at the epicentre of Andy Burnham's premiership, which is extraordinary, because 18 months ago she was thrown out of government for fraud. But I tell you what, that's a two fingers to Keir Starmer, isn't it?
It is. And Angie Rayner's back as well, and Bridget Phillipson is out, and I think...
That's brilliant, by the way. Sorry, am I allowed to say that? Sorry, Bridget. What's she now, Minister for Women and Equalities? Yeah.
Well,
great.
Given what she did for children, I think it's about to be a really rough couple of years for women and minorities, is what I'd say.
Completely agree.
But, you know, she's been replaced with, who is it, Lucy Powell?
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily an improvement. You've just got one sort of...
is that, you know, I will keep saying all day on this programme, I will salute Andy Burnham for getting rid of Rachel Reeves, David Lammy, demoting Bridget Phillipson. I really will.
I do think Phillipson was the worst one by some distance. So even though I don't have high opinion of Lucy Powell, it is still a positive move that Bridget Phillipson isn't able to smash quite as many children's futures. So let's look on the bright side there. But when it comes to the question of Louise Haigh, yeah, as you say, it's... One doesn't want to say that, you know, politics should be done on what is or what isn't a good look, but this isn't really a very good look, is it?
But then I have to be honest, I've sat here and said I don't care if somebody's got a past or has made mistakes. What I want more than anything is people who will effectively be politicians. So maybe I need to swallow my own words there.
Except, has there been at any point in her career where you've thought, yes, this is somebody with a handle, with a grip on any portfolio?
No, I just keep thinking about the red hair.
I was going to say,
when she's gone serious, Bob, mate, we're in trouble.
She was the person who sort of in the... Again, when we're talking about the first couple of weeks...
Oh, there she is, walking up Downing Street, rather awkwardly, but there she's... don't think the shoes...
Oh, yes, I was going to say, it is actually a rather awkward walk.
Oh, dear, I think their feet are hurting. She's... Well, there we go, that's Louise Haigh. Oh, She looks... Maybe she's...
Not that one should comment on someone's gait, but that does look slightly uncomfortable. I think somebody needs to give her a pair of trainers. I'm not one for people wearing trainers in politics, but she looks like she's in pain.
She does look like she's in pain. Pigeon-toed as she walks into 10 Downing. But listen, she's now a very, very important person.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't be so mean about her. She's clearly suffering.
She's clearly suffering. They could have given her a pair of shoes that didn't hurt her feet.
But don't you remember, again, first couple of weeks of the Starmer administration, she claimed that she'd managed to solve, what was it, the strike threats by the... Was it the RMT? It was the rail union? I can't remember. Said, but don't worry, we've come to an agreement. And then straight off the bat, the unions went, no, we haven't. We're going to go on strike again. We want even more money.
Let's remember the worst thing that she did. Do you remember the P&O ferry situation?
Oh, yes.
She basically said the P&O are a dreadful company, don't go on them, which put in jeopardy £1 billion investment, and she had to be rebuked about 3 days into her new job by Starmer.
Good Lord. I mean, when you've got that many sort of black marks against you that I'm just forgetting which ones were particularly bad in favour of the most recent one, that's not a great sign.
They're all on it. They're all on it already. Andy Burnham hitting the ground running. Prime Minister AB has announced a fresh tax cut to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills from October the 1st. Tony goes, let me get this straight, Jez. 5% off 800 quid is £400, not the 300 quid promised by Starmer and Miliband. £40. What did I say? I was
going to say.
5% of 800 is 40 quid, not the 300 promised by Starmer. Is it 5% VAT on electricity bills, is it? I thought VAT was 20%. Somebody help me out. How much is Burnham's announcement going to save the average household? He has announced a fresh tax cut to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills in October. Morning, Ian. How are you?
Good morning. So, Andy Burnham wants to deal with the rough sleepers. Good. He could start with the illegal migrants sleeping rough in the London streets, the likes of whom insulted Samara Gill and her camera person. Now, they would be an ideal target for the Prime Minister if he has the gonadic fortitude to deal with them.
The goanic, what did he say?
Gonadic fortitude.
The balls. Yeah, we're very basic on the breakfast show. 6:30. Jeremy, at least Burnham did us a favour by getting rid of Brainbox, Lammy and Rachel from accounts, says Roger. Said it at the top of the show. Interestingly, Rachel Reeves' sister got promoted, didn't she? She became Attorney General, Ellie Reeves.
Yeah. It's a bit, I mean, listen, it's the Labour Party. They like to keep these things in the family. Honestly, it's... Wow. But, I mean, I will just say, though, on the subject of the rough sleeping, because it needs to be said over and over again, yes, nobody likes rough sleeping. It would be a good thing to end it. To make it your priority, you know, where are these people going to go? You're just going to pick them all up and dump them in a community centre somewhere. It'll be similar to putting migrants in hotels. Where do they go long term? It's a structural problem. Rough sleeping is downstream of things including energy policy, industrial policy, immigration. If you solve those things, and there's a couple more, but if you solve those things, you'll cut rough sleeping massively. If you just decide what I'm going to do is tidy up the streets, take them from point A to point B and dump them somewhere, you don't get them off the streets long term, you just put them into... sheltered accommodation, and more people will join them. I
agree. I lived in Windsor. I've told this story before. And when Harry married the disgraceful Meghan Markle, there were five or six or seven people living rough, sleeping rough, that were quite... It was quite obvious in the town. They were all scooped up by the council and put in a Premier Inn for 3 days with bread and breakfast. And when they got married and the roads had been cleared and the barriers had been taken down, they were put out on the streets again. I think it's disgusting, but you're absolutely right. You're helping me out. You're brilliant here. Domestic use. Households and residential premises pay a reduced VAT of 5% on energy bills. The standout VAT rate is 20%. Patrick from Kent says, don't fall for it. 5% off electricity for removal of VAT. The green taxes far exceed that. The price rise this autumn more than wipes that out. Please do not fall for it. Bill in Cheshire. Andy's rough sleepers in Manchester are still there and have never left. Andy's legacy is Crackadilly Gardens in the centre of Manchester. A great place to purchase a wide selection of drugs, to be mugged or to be stabbed at your choice, and admire the statues along with the locals high on spice. So that's what... Ian from Merseyside. Good morning, Jez, the Lord of Enlightenment. Regarding VAT on gas and electricity, we should never have been taxed on what we use to heat our homes and cook food in the bloody first place. This is good. Adrian Baird, Buckhurst Hill. The tax cut on domestic energy removes the lower 5% rate of VAT and amounts to 4.7% as a cut in bills. But and this is the but, we must remember that this month the cat went up by 13%, so the energy bills will still rise this autumn. It's a complete sham.
Well, I did say it was going to be paid somehow.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to be
So
a
we're
free
actually paying for it ourselves.
Yeah.
So that wasn't such an
So it's simply a slightly smaller increase is what actually we're getting here. But as we said straight off the top, it's framed as a tax cut.
And he's better. Let's just be honest with you. At 6:15 in the morning or 6:30, he made that announcement at 6:15. He said, "I'm announcing a fresh tax cut to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills." Now we're explaining it on this show. Joanna from Salisbury, not mega bucks, about 75 quid a year, but our bills have just gone up 13%. So it's just moving money around, but the messaging already better under Burnham than Starmer.
It is all about trying to appear positive. Now, what I would say is, if it goes on for too long, people notice these things.
Cool, well, I'm going to tell them every day.
Well, exactly. I mean, the average person who isn't sort of clued into what's going on in politics all the time, they may hear the headline figure and go, oh, a tax cut.
Yeah.
But in the course of the next 6 months to a year, if the bills keep on going up, they'll notice that, and then they will go, hang on, what's going on? So you can only do this for so long before you have to address the more pressing structural issues. That's going to be the crux of whether or not Burnham survives long term. I still don't think, you asked me, am I being cynical about this at the top? Yes, I am cynical about his prospects. Doesn't matter how good at messaging he is. I think he will be a very short-lived Prime Minister.
Do you?
He'll last longer than Liz Truss, because Liz Truss was particularly uniquely bad in the circumstances that she was parachuted into. But in terms of what he can achieve, do I think he's significantly better than her? Frankly, no. And I do think that he's inherited a bad situation that he is ill-suited for. He's better at messaging these things. Does he have the will to fundamentally change lots of the areas that the country need to be changed? No, he doesn't. Does anybody in his team, like, for instance, Louise Hay, see the things that we see? No, absolutely not. So this is still going to end in tears. I don't think he'll last to the next general election.
Do you not?
There's a possibility that he tries to call an early one. I said at the start, he should call an early one whilst his popularity is up. If he puts out lots of these sorts of policies and he's saying tax cuts here, there and everywhere and ending rough sleeping, and you see a bit more of a poll bounce, he might still be tempted to. I think that that's his best shot, though, because otherwise he's going to lose in a couple of years' time.
It's going to be treading in the mud. Yeah. Have we done, Ian? Have we done that one? Oh, it's still on the screen. 0344 499 1000. You lot have sussed this out. Nick in Loughborough, he has merely cut 5%. That's all it is from our Lecky. Or has he included gas? And if not gas, why not? I don't know. Is it true? Is it gas, electricity, or just electricity? It's just electricity. Morning, Jez. Streeting shouldn't be anywhere near a cabinet position. He's misled us about falling waiting list. GP referrals are held up by 6 months before being accepted by hospitals. So you wait 6 months before actually being placed on the official wait list. Great show as always, says she. Brilliant, isn't it, Jezza? They criticised Reform for taking money from someone convicted of fraud, and the Prime Minister's just made somebody convicted of fraud a cabinet minister, says Mick in Pinner. I think that's quite good. Jez, we all have a raft of good news stories like VAT and electricity bills from Burnham over the next few weeks, but where's the general election, says Jason in Worthing. That will start as well. Mick, good morning.
Morning, JK. It's Mick in not-so-sunny Staffordshire. Mate, it's strange, isn't it? Loads of protesters used to say, when the king became the king, not my king, and I used to think, that is outrageous. I find myself thinking now, not my Prime Minister, when I saw Starmer. Now I've seen Burnham, not my Prime Minister. And then I listen to the king and I think, not my king. What is going on? Why do we think like this now? Have they become so detached that they no longer represent us?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You know, I've been doing this job for 30 years and I still have forgotten that if you try and eat a biscuit in a minute during an ad break, it just doesn't work. So stand by to take over. Welcome back to Talk, the home of common sense, and where your views on the day's news are always welcome. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222, voice note or call. You're waking up to a brand new Prime Minister and Benedict Spence in linen, who's come from his own bed to review the papers, which is quite a shock.
It's a terrifying change to everybody's lives to have me doing that and Burnham in number 10. Did you expect this? No. Actually, you probably did.
I'm more shocked that you turned up from your own house. Jay, good morning.
Morning, Jez. A great show as always. Regarding Mr. Burnham and the homelessness, it had actually over doubled the homelessness in Manchester that he said he was going to sort out. Now, as a patriot, like many Brits of all different backgrounds and colours, I want to point this out. If the homeless people and the vets would be put into these ex-military camps and HMOs, etc., you wouldn't be seeing any protests. People wouldn't care for their tax money to go to that, to help clean up the streets and get these people the help they need. But it's going to people that have never even paid a penny's tax. So the ones that have paid tax and grafted and, you know, been brought up here have been left to rot, and I don't like it. It's terrible. And I'm very happy that Ed Miliband's out of the Energy Secretary role. We need to hopefully have someone in there with common sense.
I think we all agree about rough sleeping. I'm going to give Andy Burnham some credit, though. I gave him credit over John Healey. He talks about changing things. We're just watching pictures now. No lectern, no auto cue. That was good for me. That was from the heart. Let's just give you a little bit. He talked about how British people are fed up with politics as it's been. Have a watch.
I know people at home are fed up with politics. I hear you, and I want to be honest with you. We have not been good enough, and we need to be better. We will be.
I mean, I thought the fact that he did it like that off the hoof was impressive, and I think we have to be honest with those things.
Oh, honestly, the inability of so many politicians now to speak off, you know, from the heart, to be able to even memorise their own speeches, how they read off notes in the House of Commons, it's incredibly demoralising, because actually you ought to be able to be good at this sort of thing. He is good at that. And actually, do you know what I'm also going to say? Having met Andy Burnham a few times, I do believe, unlike Keir Starmer, who I'm not sure actually was a fundamentally nice person, I do genuinely believe that Burnham's heart's in the right place. Yep. I think that he wants the best. I simply think that he's very out of his depth in terms of how he can make this happen. Whereas the odd thing was...
But we don't know that, to be fair to him.
We don't know that until actually we give him some time. His record in Greater Manchester is not brilliant. No. Actually, his record when he was in government before, because, you know, I know he likes to pretend that he's never been an MP before and that he's, you know, this outsider.
He was for 17 years.
He was for a very long time, actually his record was not brilliant then. But you have to give the guy a chance.
Yes,
as
I
you
agree.
say, as people who want this country to improve, you have to root for the guy in number 10, at the very least until he starts giving you reasons not to.
It was
and
very
as you
interesting
say,
for me.
There's no Bridget Phillipson, there's no David Lammy.
You know,
they've gone.
I think that's absolutely right. But we will have our cynical thoughts. We have to hope, as patriots, that it works. There's one thing that Christian pointed out, which I think is very, very honest. I mean, you know, people will criticise that, you know, we've got it wrong. He did not stand there and blame the Tories.
Yeah, that's true.
He actually said that all of politics has got it wrong for 40 years now. That could be seen as vacuous or empty or just a soundbite. Yeah. But that's the first time. If I had heard Starmer talk about that bloody black hole and this and that and the other, that I thought was reasonably impressive.
Well, I mean, you said that he was an MP however long ago. Whose government was he in? I mean, you know, if that's the thing, if he just sat there and blamed the Tories for the first time in a very long time, the Tories could have turned around and gone, hang on, which Prime Minister was it that you served under again?
Let's not forget, he actually stood against Jeremy Corbyn and lost. Yeah. This was an unelected, a coup. But listen, he is the Prime Minister. His changes have happened. 0344 499 1000. Loads of voice notes. Lee, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Lee from Scarborough, in his van, off to work, veteran. Listening to all this morning and yesterday. People blowing smoke up Burnham's arse. Words, mate. Words. Tax cut on fuel, electricity. Yeah, I'm off to work to pay for that, mate, today, because that's where it's coming from. It's coming from me. And you. And every other bloke that's got in his van and gone to work this morning. Mate, they're just words. It's going to be worse than before. I'm going to tell you, Jezza, mark my words. Everybody's saying, yeah, Burnham's a this, that and other. He's not. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing, mate, in my opinion. But we'll wait and see, fella. Give him till Christmas anyway. Great show, Jezza. Bye.
Sorry, is Lee in a small aircraft somewhere over Dover? I don't know. What's it? It didn't sound like
it's kind
the
of
eye in the
interesting.
sky on breakfast. Let's go to Lee.
Just with the accent as well, it reminded me of Bob Paisley. Whenever he would win the title and they'd ask, what are your plans for next year? And he'd go, well, I've won, so it might get me a job till Christmas.
Can I move away from politics? And your timing is impeccable. Front of the sun today. After the debacle of the World Cup, Kevin Keegan sadly passing yesterday at the age of 75. A tune icon, and Alan Shearer I know actually really well, just said my hero, my manager and my friend. Kevin Keegan, I saw an extraordinary interview about 6 months ago and he said, I'll be remembered for my perm, for being on Superstars and for that great quote when he went, I'm gonna love it if Sir Alex... He was massively impressive, King Kevin. A sad loss.
When he signed for Liverpool, he tells a story about how he went to Anfield and he was early, so he ended up sitting on a dustbin outside, kicking his heels, waiting for Shankly to come along.
Do you see how posh he is? Do you know what you just said? Dustbin.
Oh dear.
Dustbin.
That is what they...
Is that the refuse
Once
collection?
upon a time, that's what people called them, I know, back in the day.
You can't call that now, it'd be disrespectful.
It would be.
But Kevin Keegan, you're a Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
He was one of the best.
Do you know what? It's incredible that a man who won 2 Ballon d'Ors can be underrated. But he is underrated.
Yeah.
That, people forget how good this guy was. That actually, of a period of time, he was the best footballer on the planet. He was a superstar at a time when the sport didn't have superstars.
Yeah, I agree.
Just before Maradona sort of took off in a big way. Certainly Maradona had a lot of time for him, thought that he was a fantastic player. I think Hamburg made him one of the most expensive players of all time. They were absolutely desperate to get a hold of him. Won everything in domestic football, Kevin Keegan at Liverpool. He gets forgotten slightly because Kenny Dalglish comes in afterwards. But to be a legend on the level that he is at both Liverpool and Newcastle, I think speaks volumes about how well respected he is and what kind of an impact that he had. And, it's just a desperately sad thing.
It is.
Because your 70s is no age now. And that's the thing. We've got to a point where things like cancer, they can be treated, they can be diagnosed a lot quicker. And so increasingly, the age is we expect people to live to their 80s, 90s more. When these sort of things come along and you just think, that's a real shame, because he had life in it.
Do you know, it's really... You look at it and you went, he was 75 and I've just been 61, and you start to think about that. But listen, let me just say, I spent loads of time in Newcastle, as people know. He was an absolute legend, and I think it's important. Real tributes to him will be flowing in all day, and our sister station, TalkSport, I know have had nothing but talk about Kevin Keegan. We're delighted to take your calls on that as well. A genius, I have to say. There he is with Big Al. 0344 419 1000. Richard Holloway... back to Andy Burnham, so Andy Burnham says he's going to solve rough sleeping. I thought he just made the last occupier of number 10 homeless.
Except he's got a nice house in North London.
He has a very nice house.
He went straight to the Pineapple Pub yesterday.
Yes, did you hear about that? He and Reeves apparently were laughing and joking, sleeves up, wine out, beer tanked.
To be fair, what else are you going to do? You've just been kicked out of number... The whole nation knows that you're rubbish. What else are you going to do other than go to the pub, to be fair?
I wonder what it's like, though. You go from having the nuclear codes and seeing the king to standing in a pub. I presume the car's gone, the security... he'll have security.
Oh, he has security, yeah.
For the rest of his life.
Absolutely.
Isn't abolishing rough sleeping and homelessness the priority of the Prince of Wales, says Cliff. Monitor JB in Aberdeenshire. If Labour politicians were deck chairs and the cabinet a ship, the iceberg of failure still looms. Great. Jeremy, Benedict, I'm 71. In the last 2 years, my electricity has gone from 60 quid a month to 120 a month. I don't turn anything on. I walk about at night using a torch. The VAT cut will make no difference, says Pat.
You see, people will notice these things.
Very quickly, Mary in Canterbury. So I'm going to save about 35 quid on my electricity bill, but it's gone up by 750 quid since Labour got in. Ed Millibade told me he'd cut my bill by 300 quid. He's a liar. Yeah, good. Alex in Belfast. Morning, gents. Alex in Belfast. Serious question. Will Louise Haig pass the vetting process?
I mean...
Oh! Listen to this.
Listen, anybody can pass that vetting process.
If she were to declare a spent criminal conviction a DBS check, she would fail a security check or the higher level developed vetting check that you need to access security information. If Reform tried to appoint a minister with this record, the Burnham biggest champions, that's the BBC, Burnham's biggest champions, loving it, would be having a meltdown. Congratulations. Nigel says, your biggest achievement since taking on this breakfast show has been achieved this morning by getting Benedict Spence out of bed early and also out of his own bed, says Nigel in Brighton.
You see, you can make positive changes if you try hard enough. It's only taken a few years.
Today is a new dawn. It's a new era. Benedict Spence left his own bed and came to the show.
Just rejoice at that news.
Yes, please do, ladies and gentlemen. So glad Lammy, Reeves and Hermer are gone. That's a move in the right direction. And I think people would feel that. I wanted to hear about what he'll do about veterans, because I've sat here for how many years. I think that I have to tell you the troubles, Bill, that saying to men and women, thanks for wearing the uniform 30 years ago, but you sit and wait for a tap on the shoulder, we're going to prosecute you, and by the way, we're letting the IRA off. I want to hear that from Andy Burnham, because that is a disgrace.
Well, especially all the things that Lord Hermer has gone up to whilst he's been in government alongside Sir Keir Starmer. I mean, that whole thing is just, it's a disgrace. And again, we're talking about Andy Burnham being somebody who understands politics at a slightly more fundamental level. You would have thought one of the first things he would do is shelve that entire thing, go, come on, it's not happening.
This is what I'm saying. If you say he's good at politics,
we'll see.
Shelve that. There's a lot of things that could buy and curry political favour.
The other thing, of course, is now that he's got Miliband on a plane somewhere else, just push back against that whole agenda. If what you want, he talks about deindustrialisation, the damage that that's done. And let's be very clear, you know, there were issues around certain industries in this country. Thatcher had to address these things, but it was not all done in the best way. No. Some of it was, some of it absolutely was not. We're feeling the pinch now, certainly when it comes to things like our steel industry and the fact that we simply don't manufacture things in this country, which in a multipolar world where you need to look to your own self-sufficiency, you do need to be able to do. He's right about wanting to bring back jobs to parts of the Midland and the North that have been deindustrialised. A great way to get off the bat on that is energy, cheap, reliable energy.
100%.
Miliband has not allowed us to do that. He could do so much there, so much, and you just have to hope
and you're right,
that he has the bravery.
And he could do, whatever people say, he could do enough to call an early election. Sean, what do you make of it? Burnham?
Morning, Jeremy. Morning, Benedict. A lot of respect for Benedict, being a former soldier like myself. Starmer, what's he done? Let's start with the good points. Hamer's a goner, excellent news. Lammy's a goner, excellent news. Rachel Reeves a goner, excellent news. Back is tax dodging Rayner, and the biggest one for me is Miss Haig. She would not be able to get a job in any other walk of society. The moment you hand in that DBS check, mate, and it comes back with the fraud conviction, you're a goner. Simple. And it says a lot, really. Any other job, nah, mate, you can't have it because you're a thief. Yet in government, perfectly okay. Andy Burnham's going to tax us, mate. I'm telling you, all this stuff he's saying is going to cost a lot of money. Great show, Jeremy.
Sean, thank you for your voice note. All your voice notes are very welcome. Benedict has never been in the army. He went pheasant shooting in Scotland.
Yeah, I've handled plenty of firearms, but not actually been in the armed forces. I have members of my family. Maybe he bumped into one of them. I don't know.
Lord and Lady Spence. Can I just tell you, there's a wonderful thing going around, and I'm not embarrassed to read it out, because it said there's a picture of Keir Starmer shaking King Charles's hands as he resigns as the leader and Prime Minister of Great Britain yesterday, and it says, he said, the last time I said Andy Burnham, I was talking about my brother's porn collection. That is absolutely brilliant. Andy, burn them. There you go.
Can you do that impression more?
I said to my mother, Camilla is just a fantastic idea. Saw the clubs in a bloody difficult day yesterday.
I think you should do a whole show like
four-eyed, that man arrived and said bye-bye, and then we had missed out on lunch, and then the new one from up north arrived on his penny farthing. I had to come up from Highgrove, where I was watering and talking to the plants and do that bloody job at Buckingham Palace, and now I've got to go again.
I miss Spitting Image. That was a great show.
Listen, Spitting, thanks. It's not a bad impression, though, is it?
It's not bad, yeah.
There we go. Great.
Try and do Prince Philip. It's just that, but slightly more irate.
I loved him. My dad nearly worked for him. I'm sorry, Prince Philip was just a narking. Prince Philip reminds me of Damon, who works on this show. Just, you know, there's a line straight through it. I mean, literally, he makes me feel reticent magnificent.
I was going to say Prince Philip would literally drive a coach and horses through it.
Oh, well, no, yes, that's very, very good. I shall remember the one and only Kevin Keegan through his advert with Henry Cooper for Brute Aftershave. Absolutely. That smell will never leave my nostrils. He was a player well ahead of his time. Trevor in Harrow. I think that's absolutely right. The sad news, of course, that Kevin Keegan, legend, sadly passing last night after a short bout of cancer, and many people wanting to commend him and what he did. Jackie says, I wouldn't trust Burnham one bit. Anyone that could manoeuvre his way into number 10 the way he did must be incredibly devious. He will have a bounce, destroy Farage and call a snap election. Gillian says, good morning, Jez and Ben. You're not a Ben, are you?
I don't think so.
No.
Most people just instinctively say Benedict.
Well, I mean, you're a Benedict. You're neither a Ben nor a Dict. You are a Benedict.
Yes.
Why are you looking at me like? Do you see? Honestly,
sometimes I'm a Dominic as well. Yeah, sometimes.
I don't want to know about what you do. No. How can a so-called intelligent government expect to achieve anything whilst we're being flooded still daily with illegal migrant? Excuse me, literally everything will continue to get worse whilst we are all, except for work-shy freeloaders, getting poorer and losing identity and country. That's what you said. You've got to start with that point, right?
Yeah, you can't keep avoiding this issue, especially around illegal migration. But we've got to the point now where it's not just illegal migration. People are fed up about legal migration because they look at the rules and they go, OK, thanks for telling me that it's legal. I don't think that this particular thing should be legal because there are that many people using the system to financially better themselves who have no interest in becoming Britain. They use the system to bring great swathes of their family over. That's not a fair system. And, you know, we all know about what happened with Boris Johnson and his massive influx of people into the country to deal with social care and how much they're going to end up costing us long term.
Absolutely.
It's not good enough to say, oh, but we must be kind. We can't possibly be mean to these people. We cannot afford it.
I completely agree, and I want to do this story because it is so completely obviously what happens, and it will send my lot through the roof. A court has yesterday ruled that an Eritrean migrant who had a protruding Adam's apple and a 5 o'clock shadow was indeed a child. The man, who has not been named, changed his date of birth 5 times and was stopped from entering Britain on several occasions, but he eventually smuggled himself into the country in the back of a lorry in February 24. He was assessed by officials to be an adult based on his inconsistent dates of birth and his protruding Adam's apple, wrinkles under his eyes and a 5 o'clock shadow were dismissed. This would mean the Eritrean national was not entitled to statutory benefits. However, in immigration hearing, the judge ruled the man was 16 when he arrived. Ready for this, peeps? The Home Office have been ordered to pay the migrant now 10 grand in costs because it's been so horrible to him legally. I give up. I give up.
You look at the stats on how many people come into this country illegally and claim to magically be 16 or under. There's a huge spike compared to any other age demographic because they know they've been coached. Just say you're this age, throw away your documents, don't throw away your mobile phone, but throw away your documents. And you just magically don't have anything to prove who you are. But, you know, whoever it is that smuggled you over, they can get in touch with you straight away. You can talk to people back home. How convenient that that's the thing you've lost. Are your documents saying who you are, how old you are, and not, in fact, the mobile phone, which you would have thought more sort of thing that you'd be likely to lose in your hand or somebody would steal. It's such a miracle that all of them managed to do this.
I couldn't agree more. It's almost 7. We're going to get to the news. You are going to earn your money and you're going to stay for another 15 minutes. Dan, good morning.
Morning, JK. It's Dan from Kent. Let's take a little step back here. We've got John Healey as the new Chancellor. So he's going to have to put defence spending up to at least 3%, otherwise it's going to look a total fall. Burnham said he's going to end rough sleeping, and now they've just announced a cut on VAT on domestic energy bills. So my question is, where's the money coming from, Andy? That's the question that needs answering. Great show.
Can I just give me a break, Jeremy? Burnham speaking without notes. He spoke for 8 bleeding minutes about the kind of nonsense he's been spouting for 30 years. My 13-year-old daughter recently did a 20-minute monologue after 2 days of practice.
To be fair, it was off the cuff. It was in front of a large group of the world's media. It was better than what we've had before. I think you have to just look at this and say, actually, yes, he didn't give us a great deal of detail. He didn't give us any
The bar's been so low, though, hasn't it?
But do you know what?
I leave the country in a better state than I found it.
But if this is the standard and he keeps on doing this, then that's a positive thing. And, you know, as much as I want to be cynical. I yearn to be cynical because I am a fundamentally cynical person.
You are.
I also have to try to look for the positives.
Well, we are all patriots who want it to work. So don't forget Andy Burnham this morning at 6:15 announcing a fresh tax cut to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills. It sounds great from October the 1st, but 5% on 800 quid is £35, and it's going up by 13% anyway, which is 125 quid. So it is politics. It's almost 7. Benedict and I are back after the news at 7, which is next.
Miss Keir Starmer. I miss the guy. He is the lesser of two evils because Andy Burnham is going to be so left-wing as a Prime Minister because he's being propelled to power by a cadre of left-wing figures within the party. He'll be backed by the unions. When he gets in, Alex, they will expect their pound of flesh. This guy is wedded to the failed and ruinous ideology of socialism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Wow. Just gone 7 o'clock. This is Oh, hello. It's all gone wrong this morning. Sorry. Sorry. We had a change in the break because the microphone had broken and now it's got even worse. Welcome back to All Breakfast is on, the home of common sense and the home, of course, of you, the alarm clock Brits. If you want to be on, your views on the day's news are always important to us. 0344 499 1000. That is the telephone number. You can leave the voice note for Christian. The team are geared up and ready to go. And your text on 87222. Tuesday, 21st of July, and you, my friends, are waking up to a brand new Prime Minister. If you're watching on YouTube, there he is, Andy Burnham, acceding to the highest job in the land yesterday and pledging to bring back, in his own words, hope in my heart, 'cause I'm dreaming. He says that everybody's failed in politics and he's going to bring the biggest change in 40 years. I want to say this. He announced his cabinet. John Healey, Chancellor, genius in my mind, resigned as a Defence Secretary, said to Starmer, you don't care. He's saying to him, listen, go and find the money. I understand the defence thing. We heard in the news there, Harry Cole in America saying that the Trump administration not that impressed immediately by the news that Ed Miliband is the Foreign Secretary. I think that sort of neuters him and sends him away. Also, of course, Shabana Mahmood staying as Home Sec. Wes Streeting, Defence Secretary, eventually last night. Whatever your views about the new cabinet, whatever your views about Andy Burnham, and I'll be straight, there's no way on God's earth I don't think this will end in disaster. Labour only have one idea, which is to tax everybody to pay for all the people that they think deserve more than they actually should deserve. But here's the thing. I'm a patriot, so I want it to work. The bar was particularly low, as we said last hour, and I think that, you know, anything is going to sound initially better than Starmer. We've got Benedict Spes, legend, a man who's arrived to do the show today from his own bed and is dressed in a jacket.
I know. It's terrible, isn't it?
That's
Absolutely.
great. So we're sitting here, 6:15. Andy Burnham hits the ground running. He announces a fresh tax cut, tells the United Kingdom, I am removing VAT from domestic electricity bills from October. That sounds great. That's your thing about politics. But the truth is this, peeps. This is really important. Your bill is £800. VAT on domestic electricity bills is 5%. That is 40 quid. Now, that's good, but your bill's going up 13% by the end of the year anyway, which is another 125 quid. So it's politics, but people need to know the truth.
It is politics. People need to know the truth. But what I suspect you're going to see now is, over the course of the next week, a blitz of small policies like that just give a positive impression. The major issue that Starmer had right at the start was, for his sins, he tried to be honest. And he said it's going to be difficult, it's going to take a really long time, and by the way, I'm going to be releasing lots of people from prison.
Yes.
And that set the tone, and it went awfully badly wrong straight from the back. You have to give yourself a chance, at least for people to feel a little bit more optimistic.
Is he buying breathing space? Because he talked, didn't he? He said later in the year I'll talk about my 10-year plan. Because I read as well that his team fully expected Starmer to sit around for 3 months. And Starmer just gave him the two fingers and said, I'm off.
To which actually I respect Starmer.
Yeah, I agree.
He was defenestrated like that. He's right to be annoyed that people were disloyal to him. Absolutely. If Burnham's been sort of desperate to get this job for so long and he's got the opportunity, waltz straight in. I'm not going to make things easier for you. You've just wrecked my political career.
Yeah.
But what I would also say is there's going to be the issue around, what is it that actually Labour are up against right now? It's not really the Tories, it's Reform. Reform are having a bit of a wobble. If what you see for the next couple of months, whilst there is this investigation into what's going on with Nigel Farage, and whilst Nigel Farage is having that by-election in Clacton, then that gives him a little bit of breathing space, Burnham, to come out with these sorts of policies that, even as we know, they're not really sort of, massive sort of changes to anything, but they sound positive. It's a little bit here, a little bit there. He can keep on doing this whilst Reform's polling potentially is being chiselled away. Then you could get to a position where maybe in a couple of months he calls a general election because he thinks, I've got them on the ropes.
All the paper. Now, I just want to play this yesterday. We've got Sam Rushworth, the Labour MP for Bishop Auckland, on the way. But Beth Rigby, who I think gets better day after day on Sky, I think she's fantastic. She asked the question of Andy Burnham about how can you be doing any of this? How can you even have got into number 10 because you've got no mandate from the British people? Watch the excellent Beth Rigby.
You said on Friday in your speech as you accepted the Labour leadership that you want to deliver the biggest change in our politics in 40 years. It sounds like a massive ambition for which you do need a mandate beyond the 25,000 people who voted for you in the Makerfield by-election. When are you going to call a general election?
Well, we're in a parliamentary democracy, and as we've seen through time, if somebody can command the majority of the MPs in the House of Commons, obviously they then have the legitimacy to lead things forward. And I will lead forward consistent with the manifesto.
Sorry about that, we're having a few technical gremlins, but here's the thing. Beth Rigby quite rightly saying to Andy Burnham, what about that? Because I think, didn't he tweet repeatedly? Here we are, we've got it. This was when Sunak was doing his stuff. We need to start demanding a general election at the end of this Tory leadership fiasco. They were all elected on a manifesto promising to level up the north, and they're abandoning it. But that's going to happen. So in your view, we're going to go to a Labour politician in a tick. There'll be lots of announcements. We need to scratch below the surface and see what they actually mean. Reform, you say, a little bit on the back foot, and you can envisage a situation where Burnham, the bounce, the gloss before it starts to unravel. He might well call that general election.
I think he should, because he's going to find it as tough as Starmer did. We've already seen, actually, what happens even with a huge majority. You can't necessarily fix things. He needs as much positivity to buy himself more time, because right now everybody says a general election is 3 years away. What does that mean? It means it's 2 years, basically, before people start getting really angsty. So 2 years, and then you're basically out, because it's not going to get any better. If you buy yourself 5 years, that gives you the 2 years for things to get worse and then get better. Do you think
that with what you said about Reform and his ability to blitz a few things, do you honestly think he could go to the country and win?
I think in the next couple of months there could come that point, He would have a much reduced majority. This is the thing. He wouldn't come back with the majority that Starmer had, because the Labour Party are now the ones that people would like to punish. Could he get a majority that's maybe in, you know, double digits, low double digits? Yes. Would that be necessarily a bad thing? No. It might focus the minds of a lot of MPs. If he's then able to turn around...
Is he going to sacrifice 150 Labour MPs? I'll tell you what, let's go to... Let's go to a Labour MP. It's a very good morning. And I do, you know, some people will go... I mean, I've just had a text. Giving Burnham credit for his presentation and communication means that you've already fallen for it, says David South Gloucester. Not at all, mate. But if I'm going to have a debate, I want to hear both sides of the argument. I am the most cynical man in the world. I am fed up with our political class, genuinely. Sam Rushworth is the Labour MP for Bishop Auckland. Sam, thank you for... No lights on. It's gone wrong already. The electricity, it's all Burnham's fault, mate. I'm joking. How are you?
Hi. Good morning.
Let's get the view of a backbench Labour MP. Did you support Andy Burnham? Did you vote for his nomination?
I've spent weeks arguing that we shouldn't be having a leadership contest while in government, because we promised not to. We promised to end that sort of merry-go-round of prime ministers and ministers, and I felt that it would be dangerous for the country to destabilise a sitting prime minister. I'm pleased that if we were going to have it, that we've been able to have a sort of bloodless transition to Andy Burnham, and so I did give him my nomination in the end, only after Keir Starmer said he would resign, because I felt that now the consistent thing for me is to continue that argument that the Labour Party needs to be united and we need to have a stable government. And so I think it's in the national interest that I play my part in that, even if it means sort of swallowing my pride a bit and sucking it up.
Let me ask you some direct questions, and let me make the point that we're very grateful. Benedict Spence is here as well. You saw Beth Rigby interviewing Andy Burnham. I know the Tories did it. My position on this has been very clear for 3 years. I believe if you change party as an MP, you have to call a by-election. I believe that no Prime Minister should be able to accede to the highest job without a mandate. He has no mandate. And interestingly, you saw it. He called for the exact same that we believe many people will start to be calling for a general election. He did that when the Tories were in power. Benedict said, I think he might well get a bounce and might go to the country. What are your views? What does the backbench Parliamentary Labour Party think of this last 24 hours?
I mean, and I respect your view on that. Obviously, the Constitution says something different, right? For hundreds of years, we've been a parliamentary democracy, and yet I think in the country people often feel that they are electing a prime minister, or they feel that they're voting for a party to be in government rather than voting for their member of parliament. So I understand those calls, and of course, if the tables were reversed, I think you would hear Labour figures saying, there needs to be a general election. We certainly said that when Rishi Sunak became prime minister. So I get that, and of course the government of the day said exactly what I'm saying to you, which is no, there doesn't need to be, because we're a parliamentary democracy. I think from my point of view, I fought really hard for 2 years to become the Member of Parliament for Bishop Auckland, and just like governments feel that they've got a mandate and a 5-year plan, I feel like I've got a personal mandate to be the MP for our area, to represent the people I represent, and I've got a 5-year plan, and I'm only 2 years into that. There are many things that I want to see change in my constituency that I'm fighting for every day.
But can I jump in, Sam? And I'm not being cynical. Benedict also, the difference between Burnham and even the Tory situation is he wasn't even an MP when that mandate was given to the British people. And the concern would be, and I completely get your honest answer, the concern would be how much of that was voted for, that got that huge, is going to be torn to shreds by a man who has very publicly said, we are going to take Britain leftwards. And that scares a lot of people. Definitely scares a lot of people.
I think if you start breaking key planks of your manifesto, that you don't have a mandate to do that. And I think that's true. But actually, I think what I'm hearing at the moment actually is kind of a lot of bold rhetoric, but not a lot of policy change to back that up. A lot of the things that Andy Burnham is announcing as a new Prime Minister is our current legislative programme. We have a programme in place right now to devolve power to the nations and regions. That's what we're doing. We have a programme to tackle the cost of living crisis, the sort of thing that he announced this morning around energy bills. That's just really consistent with what Rachel Reeves did, removing the net zero tariff to take £150 off energy bills. So unless we're in the sort of territory where he's saying, actually, we're going to fundamentally rip up the fiscal rules and do things completely differently, then I take the view that actually we already have a mandate from the public to enact our manifesto, and we need to continue doing it.
Benedict?
Sam, it's interesting that you say, that this is what the Constitution allows, but of course the Constitution is unwritten. It's not, it's uncodified. So whilst, for instance, you can have a Prime Minister who sits in the House of Lords, it's not the done thing anymore because precedents have been set that it's not really considered acceptable in modern times. And, you were talking about sort of the stability and having a mandate as a personal mandate. Well, we've had a couple of years of a significant political upheaval, not actually largely driven by Labour, but by the Conservatives and their love for sort of getting rid of leaders in pursuit of personal ambition. Wouldn't it set a fantastic precedent, actually, to be the government, to be the Prime Minister, who breaks the mould of just changing leader and going, yeah, but we're not going to have a leadership, well, we're not going to have a general election because this is what the rules allow. Wouldn't it set a fantastic precedent to be the one who says, no, I'm going to go back to the people because I trust the people? Because on the one hand, wouldn't it show people, actually, that this is not somebody who is hiding behind parliamentary procedure? And wouldn't it also put the Conservatives, and potentially Reform as well, in an incredibly sticky situation whereby if they run into trouble, they're also sat there looking over their shoulders going, well, we can't just have a nice, easy leadership contest because we might actually have to go to the country again. Wouldn't it, in fact, lead to a period of stability after this? Because increasingly what you'd have is government saying there isn't an easy out of just getting rid of the leader.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and obviously I can't read the mind of the Prime Minister, so I don't know whether he would agree with you. I mean, essentially you're saying it would be bold and brave and it might be rewarded by voters for doing so. I'm not sure that it would set a precedent, though, because I think ultimately when power is difficult to win, and when you've got it, you don't just throw it away. And the fact that he's done that this one time doesn't mean that a future Conservative government would feel a need to act the same way. If they did, then we would have seen Rishi Sunak go straight to the polls when he became Prime Minister. But understandably, he chose to cling on to power until the last minute because that's what suited him and his party. And to be fair, the Conservatives earned that right in 2019 when they all won their seats in a general election.
Let me jump in if I can. Firstly, appreciate you being on. I sort of feel like the bar was so low before, I'm afraid it was. Communications-wise, you can see immediately it's better in the last 24 hours. I think Healy's a great choice because I think that is, you wanted more for defence, go and find it. We can talk about the failures. We've talked about Starmer and Reeves repeatedly. Do I sense that you're quite cynical, like lukewarm? You were obviously a Starmer supporter. The electricity cut this morning, this was announced by Andy Burnham at 6:15. He said, peeps, I'm going to freshly cut tax to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills. Now, we've broken this down. The average bill is £800. 5% of that, which is domestic VAT charge, is £40. But bills have gone up by 13%. You talked about Rachel Reeves's net zero. This is politics at its smartest, in brackets, look at the detail, close brackets. This is not a saving at all. This is an announcement to get him on the front foot. The reality is electricity bills continue to rise. Isn't that true, Sam?
Well, as you know, there's what you do as a government, and then there's what Global Forces does, and you can only control the first part of that. So, yes, energy bills have risen because of the conflict in Iran that Keir Starmer wisely kept Britain out of, but that doesn't change the impact on the global cost of energy. You can only control the things that you can control. And to me, this is continuity, that we saw Rachel Reeves as Chancellor doing what she could in her power.
So are you lukewarm? Are you lukewarm to this new Prime Minister's massive announcement this morning? You talk about continuity. Are you saying, so far, you see nothing new?
I very much welcome the announcement precisely because it's continuity, because it's Labour's programme of cutting the cost of living and trying to make life better for people. But what I suppose, if I'm lukewarm to anything, it's this idea that a new dawn has broken, because I don't think that that's the case. I think that there's been quite a bit of rewriting of the last 2 years in recent days, and actually over the last 2 years our country's taken big steps forward that I'm really proud of, and I'm not really seeing, to be honest, that this is a radical departure from that.
OK. Benedict?
I mean, Sam, it's interesting, of course, you're talking about that you think that the country's taken great steps forwards. One of the major criticisms, of course, of Keir Starmer was his inability to get on message and to get things across like that. Andy Burnham yesterday stood up in front of the nation and said the first thing he's going to address is rough sleeping. I mean, that's a pretty, that's a pretty black and white message right there. He wants to do that. But actually, is there any detail? Have you seen any detail about how it is that he wants to do that? Most people understand rough sleeping as being something that, is very visible, obviously a very bad thing for most people trapped in it, but as a result of structural issues, be it energy policy, be it housing policy, be it immigration. Is this something that can be solved short term, or is this again just an example of somebody who's much better at messaging, trying to get things across, but a little bit too light on detail, frankly?
Well, I think he is very good at messaging, and to be fair to Andy, it's day one in government, and I wouldn't expect him to have a full and comprehensive plan for that. But whenever I go into schools and kids ask me how I get into politics, I tell them about when I was 7 years old, and it was the first time I saw a rough sleeper on the streets and was shocked by it and had a lot of questions from my parents about why does this happen. And I think it's a good thing to set a national mission, and that's what he was doing yesterday. Is he was really indicating where his heart lies, where his priorities are. But you're absolutely right that rough sleeping isn't just about there not being enough houses to suddenly put people in. That it's complex and multifaceted, and there's no quick solution to that. So if what he was saying yesterday is that this is going to orientate government around this national mission, great, I'm all for that. But you're right, there's going to have to not just be a lot of detail that will come out, but there's going to have to be really comprehensive plans that cut across various
Sam,
government departments.
let me just jump in and I repeat, I want to get all sides on this and I appreciate it, but I have to take issue with what you just said. Big steps forward. This is not personal about Starmer. I've heard his acolytes and his fans say he's made big steps forward, and I'm going to give him one bit of credit, which is internationally, I think he called it absolutely right. I don't agree with the basis thing, but I do think his support for Ukraine, I didn't like how he was a bit of a patsy to Trump, but that's a difficult relationship. But my friend, with the greatest of respect, the reason the Labour Party is or has been in freefall, the reason that they got rid of Keir Starmer is because he hadn't stopped the boats, right? Energy bills have gone through the roof because of Miliband's crazy net zero. This is an absolute fact. We've got an asset in the North Sea which would decrease our huge debt and the billions we pay on interest, a refusal to do that. The rape gang inquiry, because I can tell you, go out there and ask people on the doors, you'll know this. It is disgusting that this stain on British society still hasn't been dealt with or judicially done properly. And you might hate this, because we know what the Parliamentary Labour Party did. If you have in this country a welfare benefits bill that outstrips what the Exchequer gets in tax from people or work, you are in trouble. And Keir Starmer, to his credit, tried to knock a measly £5 billion off a £335 billion deal, and your party wouldn't let that through. I wanted Andy Burnham yesterday to talk about stopping as did the British public and their majority, I would say this, stopping the boats, cutting the welfare benefits, doing something about energy domestically and business-wide, looking into this disgusting rape gang thing that is still prevalent in this country. All of those things he didn't mention. So a bit like you, circuit breaker, 40 years. What about some meat on the bone? And then I hear, oh, they didn't expect to get into power till September. They haven't got a plan. And so a bit like you, the VAT on electricity is just messaging. There's big issues, Sam. With respect, your ex-leader did not sort them out in any way at all. He didn't.
I'm going to take issue with you on a number of points there. I mean, firstly, do you honestly think that there is some magic wand that Keir Starmer kept locked in Downing Street and never got out and used, that you could just wave at problems and fix them? If you look at small boats, the numbers of crossings is down this year compared to last year. Net migration has fallen. There have been more people returned than at any point under the Conservatives. So we are.
Hold on a minute. The one in. I'll let you speak. But one in, one out. One in, one out.
You could reduce crime to zero overnight.
No, I'm not saying you can, mate, but we give France £500 million and they stand on the beaches in France and laugh at us. Starmer's one in, one out.
I'm sorry, I mean, that's... I mean... No, That's mythology, frankly. That's mythology. It's not true. The numbers are getting better. And actually what you saw, and Andy Burnham did not yesterday have to mention every single part of his legislative programme and what he intends to do. The fact that he kept Shabana Mahmood in post as Home Secretary, I think, was a very strong indication of where he stands on immigration and his determination
So
to
was
tackle
Starmer
it.
weak
But look,
on immigration? Was Starmer weak on immigration? Was Starmer weak on immigration? Was Starmer weak?
No, I don't think he was. I think, as you say, if you look at every single number around this, it's moving in the right direction. It didn't happen overnight. It never would. Currently, 2 Reform Party MPs, Suella Braverman and Robert Jenrick, were Home Secretary and Immigration Minister during the height of this crisis.
Yep.
They didn't fix it either. The reason the previous government didn't fix it is because there is no overnight fix to this problem. It's going to take hard work. As I say, just to pretend that you can just stop all boats overnight would be as stupid as saying that you can stop all crime overnight. Like, there are serious criminal gangs that are very good at what they do, and they're constantly circumventing the measures that we put in place.
I don't want you to take me the wrong way. We have different views, and that's a democracy. But if you want to get onto crime, here's what I would do. I wouldn't be doubling my foreign aid budget to 11 billion. I'd be using that money to build prisons. I'd say to my Justice Secretary, and thank God Lammy's gone, that's me being honest, right? I'd say, if you get 5 years, you're going to serve 5 years. I'd be saying, if you get found with a knife, you're going to prison, you're not coming out until you've served your time. That's what I'd be doing. It's different ways of looking at stuff, isn't it?
Well, again, you talk about prisons. The previous government, in 14 years, barely added a dozen prison places.
Absolutely.
Now, under Keir Starmer, we've built thousands more prison places. So that is the programme of this government. That's exactly the point I'm making.
Then why did the Labour Party get rid of him then, Sam?
We are building the prison places that our country needs.
Well then, Sam, why did your colleagues get rid of him then, if, in your words, progress was being made?
I think you know the answer to that. People got jittery about local election results and frightened of losing their seats. And by the way, I'm not here to tell you that everything that I always agreed with Keir Starmer, because I didn't. I agree with some of your criticisms about communication. I agree with the criticism that Bennett made earlier, that he sort of came in and basically said, guys, everything's going to be bad. And in a way, I think Keir had this sort of belief that we've been putting sticking plasters over problems for too long, and what we need is to look at long-term solutions to the problems our country faces. And yet we've got a country that was crying out for immediate change, and I think we didn't deliver aspects of that change fast enough. Obviously there were mistakes. Winter fuel allowance was a mistake. I said so within minutes of the policy being announced. So I'm not pretending that everything was perfect, but what I'm saying is, on these key things, and you mentioned prison places, we're the party that's come into power and is building those prison places that the previous lot failed to deliver on. And those people who failed are now Reform Party MPs.
Yeah. Benedict, final word, Benedict.
All I would say, just on that final point, though, is if you have a Prime Minister who comes in on his first day and says, actually, we put too many people in prison, because that's actually the thing that everybody remembers about, Starmer's approach to justice. It wasn't that he built more prison spaces at all. He came out and said, we put too many people in prison. And that, I think, sets the tone straight from the bat. And this is, I wonder, is this not actually potentially going to be a problem for Andy Burnham? Because he came in and he said, I'm going to end rough sleeping. When he was Mayor of Greater Manchester, rough sleeping went up. It's a very visible thing that you can't actually hide from. And whilst I think we all accept, and, as I've said, it's a positive thing to get off the front foot on, it's something that you can't avoid long term. Is there, therefore, not an argument to be said he has to go to the country now, before people realise that the tax cuts are not, in fact, tax cuts? They're just making the rises slightly smaller. Before, as we talk about, people realise, oh, there are no quick, fixed solutions. Isn't it in his interest, whilst Reform are struggling and whilst the Tories are deluding themselves that they're back on the rise because Kemi's doing well, to actually go for the jugular and say, now is the time to be bold?
Final answer, Sam.
Sounds like you're suggesting that he goes to the country before people realise things. I don't think you should be deceiving the electorate.
You're in politics, Sam. That's what everybody does.
Sleeping, it's going to take. Well, no, we need to do politics differently then, because I think we need to be honest with people. And rough sleeping's a good goal, but you're absolutely right. It's easy to make a big bold announcement about where your heart lies. It's another thing to deliver it, and that's going to be really difficult. And I do hope that we orientate government behind a goal such as that. And I don't think we need a mandate from the British people to end rough sleeping. I think it's pretty clear how they feel about that.
Sam, can I just say, I really appreciate you coming on. For me, that's what it's all about. It's all about debate, and I mean that really, really honest. And your appraisal is your appraisal, and it's important for Benedict and I in this station to get all views. Really appreciate it, my friend. Have a good day. Sam Rushworth, Labour MP for Bishop Auckland. Bit lukewarm in his support there for Burnham, shouting more about what Starmer had. Do you know what I thought last night? I'm just going to a break, but I think that Starmer was massively out of his depth. Yeah. In the last 2 weeks, when he knew he was toast, he was a much more free, laughing, joking. Maybe it's the job. I think he was totally out of his depth. Yeah. Do I think he's probably just a nice man? I go yes, and then I think what he did to the veterans, and it drives me absolutely bloody insane. Apparently, I've got to go to a break. Don't go anywhere. 7:30, back in a minute.
Some breaking news. 8 men have been charged with rape and child sex offences as part of a grooming gang operation in South Wales. They've been charged with more than 30 offences. According to the CPS, the charges relate to 8 victims who were children.
Well, let me start by giving comment on Alison Hernandez, the Police and Crime Commissioner for Devon and Cornwall. She's a stupid, idiotic sycophant.
Anne Widdecombe was murdered, the most high-profile murder in Britain for many, many decades. She was murdered because she supported the reform agenda.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 7:30. This is Talk, of course, the home of common sense, and where Alarm Clock Brits their views on the day's news. Benedict Spence with me. A 28-year-old man has overnight been charged with the murder of Anne Widdecombe, of course, the Reform MP. Police say that Joshua Kerry has been charged with a single count of murder after the former Tory minister was found dead at a home in Hayter on Dartmoor in Devon earlier this month. He will appear before Westminster Magistrates Court today. Very important. This is an ongoing case. We can't have an opinion. Just wanted to have a quick chat, though, with the voice of all knowledge when it comes to policing and stuff like that. Peter Blexley, a very good morning. Welcome to breakfast.
Good morning.
I think everybody was just so shocked when this terrible incident happened, and we have to be very careful. What's your take on the news, as much as you can say?
Well, I suspect he will appear either via video link or in person today. The wheels of justice will start to turn. I don't anticipate that any pleas will be entered today, but we shall wait and see. I would also imagine that this case will progress fairly rapidly. I would expect to see a trial in a number of months rather than, say, a year or more.
I think it's become, obviously, a case that's so up there in people's minds, and politically people have got involved with the whole debate on security of politicians, from Nigel Farage across to the government. It'll be very interesting to see, you're right, the speed of the outcome, but also the sort of the fallout and how this improves. I mean, I'd read, I think it was, I could be totally wrong, it was Boris Johnson, I think, at the weekend said, which I thought was wrong. He said, MP security isn't an issue. It patently is. patently.
There will be a number of much broader issues that stem from this appalling case. Yes, including the safety of politicians and people who are prominent in the media, political commentators and the like. But there's a message here which doesn't impinge upon this case whatsoever, and is a very broad message, but also a very apposite and relevant message that I do not hesitate to put out there. Unfortunately, some decades ago, senior police officers decided that patrolling the streets wasn't effective, couldn't be measured, and therefore they largely abandoned it. And of course, what has happened is the criminals have taken over. So there is now, sadly, an obligation upon us all to keep our homes, our vehicles, our loved ones as safe as we possibly can, because the criminals rule the streets and the police don't. So that might mean that I would urge you this summer, if necessary, to abandon that holiday and instead get a state-of-the-art CCTV system and a burglar alarm, get an immobiliser for your car, get a steering lock. When you go out on the streets, don't have your head down in your phone, don't have headphones on, because you're denying yourself your hearing and your sight. I'm sorry to be a bringer of such doom this morning, but it really is pretty dangerous out there in many, many places.
But it so infuriates me, Pete. It's pretty dangerous out there. I'm not having a go at you at all. That's not good enough. You're absolutely right. You know, gone are the days where police will be on the streets gathering intel. I'm sick and tired of this. Oh, let's police by computer or by form, by ticking a few boxes. You're absolutely spot on. And one of the things that I think the government need to do urgently this is Theresa May, by the way. I'm not even talking about the Labour Party. She started this complete and utter abdication of what I believe the police are. I mean, you were telling me that they can't even be called police force anymore because that's disrespectful. I'm old-fashioned. I think they should be out there. I just want to say, yesterday, David Lammy fired as Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary. No comment for me. But in one of his last pieces of action, and I want your response to this, he was taking legal action to block the publication of foreign nationals' crime rates in England and Wales. Patently, that's a cover-up. Recent data showed that foreign nationals accounted for 1 in 7, steady 15%, of sexual offence convictions last year. This is the police national computer. And Lammy, who's no longer in the job, thought it would be a good idea to cover that up. Should we not know, as a society, what the people coming to this country illegally are doing? Of course we should, Peter Blexley.
Open justice is a central tenet of our society, of our democracy. Therefore, we need to know who's committing what types of crime. Moreover, the police need to know that and to share that information with us so that they can take positive action against any particular community or area that are committing these crimes. They have an obligation to actually get out on the streets and try and regain some element of control so that less people become victims of crime. That's what the police were set up for. That's what they should do. That's what they need to get back to.
And why would they want to block details about foreign criminals? Because that would then accelerate the view of millions in this country that we need to do something about either deporting those or not allowing them into our country in the first place.
The reason this is blocked can be summed up by Jack Nicholson, who famously said in a movie, "You can't handle the truth." And that is the bottom line.
Interesting. Mate, you've always been very honest and open when you come on this show. What did you make of yesterday? Is Burnham a new dawn, a new era, much of the same? We'll give him the communications better, but shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic, people are texting me this morning.
He's the silver-tongued socialist. It will still be socialism. It will still be tax and spend. It will still be fluffy, woke, liberal, and as they call it, progressive attitudes towards law and order, for example. And Britain is not going to become any better anytime soon.
Lovely. There you are. And are you back on tour, PB?
Yes, I am. Harrogate last night, Worcester tonight, then Colchester, then Wellingborough, then Sonning. Come and see the show this week. You will not regret it.
I have to tell you, this is the makings of it's an unbelievable stand-up show, Benedict, that this man's doing on his own. How many dates, PB?
In total, I'm doing 158.
He was
I've done
nothing.
90.
He was nothing till he met me. Now I can't get a gig, and he's got a bleeding agent. Peter Blexley, seriously, go online because it is fantastic. And you're going to Sonning on Friday, which is where I went to school. I wish you could come. But Peter Blexley, as ever, thank you. 21 minutes to 8. Morning, Adrian.
Morning, Jeremy. It's Adrian from East Sussex. Try not to be as depressing as I was yesterday. Re Burnham, we will see. Actions speak louder than all these words. That tax cut on electricity is absolutely irrelevant. If he wants to impress me, I want to see net zero cancelled. I want to see these rebates to all the industry thrown away, all the green taxes. And start drilling in the North Sea. That would be a good move there.
I think most of us would agree with that. Benedict Stewart here. Let's say a very good morning. And I have no shame in saying this, Benedict. He knows what I'm going to say. Our next guest must look at the pictures of Andy coming up 10 down. This man should have been Prime Minister of this country, along with Ian Duncan Smith. Sir John Redwood, former Conservative Minister. How are you, my friend?
Good morning. I'm in good form. Pity about the country. Good to hear some common sense.
Andy Burnham, dear boy, what did you make of yesterday? We will give him credit. The communication's already far better than the dreary Starmer who's now exited to the pub with Rachel Thieves.
Well, he gives us a much better narrative, as they say, but it seems to be completely disconnected from reality. He is going to discover the hard way that if you are Prime Minister, you've got to do what you say and you've got to deliver what you promise. And I don't see how he's setting himself up to do anything but fail. I mean, he comes up with this lovely idea that we're going to end all rough sleeping. Now, he also says that he's going to give more powers to councils and regional mayors. So how do you do that from the centre? Is he going to instruct them all? Is he going to take away some of their powers because they're currently responsible for rough sleeping and housing? And then you've got this tax cut, which he's come out with. But as we've just heard, it doesn't deal with the main problem, which is the overwhelmingly expensive electricity because of the dreadful net zero policies that Mr Miliband has been following. We need is drill, baby, drill.
You're so... honestly, it's genius. I've been here 2 hours. Nobody's thought of that. Absolutely. I'm going to clear rough sleeping, Benedict, and we've all gone, yes, but Andy, when you were in Manchester, it doubled. Old John Redwood should have been Prime Minister when, yeah, but you want to take powers away from give more powers to mayors and local authorities who are responsible for rough sleeping being so prevalent.
Yeah, it's true. We haven't even touched upon his plans around devolution and, you know, his idea about the centralisation or the decentralisation of power, how any of this is meant to work. It's true, we've not quite got round to that yet. But, of course, this is part of the issue, is that, you know, as John says, we've got a man who's very good at spinning a yarn, but actually what is it based on? Up to now, he's been very... shall we say, tactile about dodging those kind of questions. And you actually pointed out that, you know, Beth Rigby has been quite good at trying to hold them to account recently. I suspect it's because broadcasters like Sky and others, they feel burned by not actually putting Sir Keir Starmer through the ringer first time round, and then when he actually became Prime Minister, it was, oh, we haven't really held this man to account properly. They're trying with Burnham. They really are in a way that they didn't with Starmer. But he's a lot more slippery in a lot of ways. Starmer, very rigid, very robotic, was always going to answer the question like a fool. This man has had many, many years of practice of not, in fact, giving you the full answer.
John, we want to make it personal. You're absolutely right when you talk about the policies. Yeah, straight out the block, 6:15 this morning, he announced, if you're just tuning in, a fresh cut to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills on October the 1st. And you go, that's fantastic. Reality is, electricity bills on average 800 quid, VAT on domestic properties 5%, that's £40, but they're going up by 13%, which is 125 quid anyway. So it's a complete non-entity, but... Benedict, and they call him Dominic. Benedict, I think, is right when he says in the next few months there will be a raft of these little policies to try and accentuate the bounce in the polls. Do you think the British public will see through it quite quickly, John?
Yeah, I think they will. And I think they'll also see through the lack of accountability and democracy. I mean, how can this man say he's going to change important things without Parliament being in session? Why won't he allow the Commons to be working this week? Because if he wants to put out a set of announcements, he should get his new Secretaries of State to make them day after day with proper scrutiny by MPs and the press sitting in the gallery judging the contest. That's our tradition. He wants to snaffle out nice ideas, not properly backed up by how you would deliver them or how you would pay for them, and hope that people will fall for it. Well, I don't think they will. I think they're very cynical about politicians already. And they're very cynical about the way we've had this coronation with no proper contest or ability to cross-examine.
Let me ask you about the... I'm really interested. Again, I'm quite outspoken. There's a shock. He made 27 appointments yesterday. I thought John Healey was a really, really good appointment as Chancellor of the Exchequer. Your thoughts?
I think he was probably the least bad choice, and I think it's quite an amusing choice because, of course, Healey has peppered the press and the airwaves with saying we've got to have a big increase in defence spending. So now he's got the wonderful job of finding out how you pay for that as Chancellor of the Exchequer, and he can't really back off very easily.
Have you heard the rumour? Have you heard the rumour, John, that allegedly, we don't know if it's true, Benedict brought this up, we reckon that Rachel Thieves was offered defence. Can you imagine the irony if she'd said yes and not skulked off in a mood that Healey and she would have removed? Ed Miliband...
It would have been the funniest game in town, wouldn't it?
Oh, mate. Miliband, we predicted Foreign Secretary out the way, feels he's been promoted, neutered, right?
Yep. Absolutely, and he will be logging up the air miles and burning all that jet fuel. I'm sure that would give him great pleasure.
Shabana Mahmood still as Home Secretary. Wes Streeting Defence. Is there anything that jumps out? Well, I'm going to ask you the question. Louise Haigh, Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, First Secretary of State, second most powerful person, his enforcer is a convicted felon. Am I being unfair?
Well, you're stating a truth, which others have also spotted. But I'm more interested in knowing what the job description is. What is she going to be enforcing? What is she actually going to be doing? What's her relationship going to be with the Chief Whip and the Leader of the House of Commons, who are the usual enforcers on the governing party MPs? But of course, as the MPs aren't there, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to enforce anything on them.
Good, from my point of view. Rachel Thieves gone, David Lammy gone. Starmer's sort of acolytes and his supporters, they said it was a brutal cut. It was always going to happen, wasn't it? It's what Prime Minister's incoming do.
Yeah, but it was very factional, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And, you know, take Darren Jones. I didn't like what he was doing, but he's clearly bright and talented and was better on the media than most of them. And his career has been cut short because he backed the wrong horse in a leadership election that never took place.
Can I be really honest? I've never, ever... I feel myself on uncharted territory. I've never disagreed with John Redwood because I'm too scared to. I think he's a poor... Do you remember when he was on Newsnight when he said, and I quote, 90% of the people that come over on boats are women and children? That's what he said. Yeah, I give you
that one, Jeremy. I've been too kind. You're absolutely right.
Yes, John Redwood. Benedict, what do you say to John? I mean, John's been there and done it. I mean, is it me or of politicians do we think, not just with respect to the Ian Duncan Smiths and the John Redwood, they're not what they were, are they?
Oh, I think that's a reflection of the country in general, though. Yeah. Ultimately, a country can only produce sort of people of the calibre that it is producing if those people are the ones that end up in politics. And I think, you know, I don't want to sound all Peter Hitchens at this time of the morning, but the fact that you don't actually have politicians who can even recite sort of well-known bits of, you know, I don't know, passages from the Bible, Shakespeare,
or have had another job.
Yeah, well, the fact that we have just a pipeline of people who went to school, jumped through enough hoops to get to Oxbridge, jumped through enough hoops at Oxbridge to get into positions in the Labour or Conservative Party and have just climbed the ladder. Listen, there are lots of good MPs, actually. It does need to be reiterated. There are lots of people who go into politics for the right reason. They make very good constituency MPs. Very rarely do those people end up actually progressing anywhere because they're not going into it in order to be Prime Minister. And this was one problem, I think, that the Conservatives have had for a very long time. The worst people all really want to be Prime Minister, and boy, do they go for it. And the constituency MPs who do good work never rise above a certain point. There's no idea about service and saying to people, look, I know you don't want that role, but would you mind actually fulfilling it for the benefit of the nation?
John, to finish, where does this end? Quickly, slowly, painfully?
Well, I think slowly people recognise that they're not getting the delivery of the promises and they're not getting the change they wanted. And I don't think Burnham has ever explained how he deals with the contradiction of his main position, which is he is going to implement the manifesto, so it's continuity Burnham, but he's going to deliver the change people wanted, and he'll discover that the manifesto stops him.
John Redwood, listen, in awe. I love you. Thank you, my friend. Great to have you on, albeit briefly, on breakfast. And Benedict Spence, you're only supposed to do an hour. You've done an hour and 48 minutes. I hope you'll be doubling that invoice to Christian.
Again, Burnham's Britain. We're all having to work harder, longer, for, you know, is it any better? I don't know.
Are you going
tell
back to
me.
your own flat, or are you going?
Yes, I'm going back.
Well done, Benedict Spence. Thank you very much indeed. Right, Talk Breakfast is on. What do we got? We'll speak to Tom Scotstoun a bit from The Sun. Tony, good morning.
Morning, Jazzy. Tony from Stoke. I'm quite excited about Andy Burnham taking £35 for my electricity bills for the year. I'm just considering now what I can spend me £3 a month on. Pint of milk maybe? Keep up the good work, mate. Pathetic.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 9 minutes to 8. We're live across the UK. We'll kick the next hour off with Brendan O'Neill, chief political writer at Spike. We've got James Cartledge from the Tory party and the incredible Isabel Oakeshott. All of that to come. Right now, though, are you sure? OK. This is a voice note from somebody called Hoppy. I'm pretty convinced it should be Poppy, but Christian's sticking by it. Morning, Hoppy.
Just listen to that MP you've got on there. Is his name Sam? When we win power, I've heard that a lot since Labour come in. I thought it was all about public service. I thought it was the equivalent to joining the military, where you go in there and you're doing it because you want to do it, because you want to give service, you want to give something to your country. When we win power, that says it all. That says it all. Not when we become stewards of the country, we become leaders and we go to help people because that's the service we'd like to do to make our country better. When we win power.
Says Hoppy. 8 minutes to 8, 0344 499 1000. Let's speak next to the political correspondent for The Sun, the new boy who was bouncing around Downing Street yesterday. Brilliant stuff online. Tom Scotstoun, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Very good. Thank you, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm all right, but you don't need to wear a tie. Only when you're in the Commons. Now, no tie, no jacket. It's the new Britain, Tommy.
I know, Jeremy, I've always been a traditionalist here. I've always said that I want people to respect me at work, so I've got to go in and always wear a tie. And I do get teased by some of my colleagues for doing that.
Well, I'm going to support you, says he who never wears a tie because it hurts my neck. Mate, what was yesterday like to be down there? We obviously saw it was choreographed. You got Keir Starmer, the big exit, the lectern. Then you've got our Andy. I thought he was going to pedal up in Birkenstocks on a penny farthing and just sit down on a box. But, he was in a suit, but he started doing things differently. What was it like? What was the vibe like in Downing Street, Tom?
I mean, from a personal perspective, because it was the first one I'd ever covered, it was incredibly exciting. I mean, to see, most of the world's media descend on Downing Street, outside, waiting for the Prime Minister, there was definitely a lot of energy. But I think from speaking to some of the old hacks that were there, they said that it wasn't as busy as someone saying, for example, Boris Johnson coming to Downing Street all those years ago, or Rishi Sunak. But because we'd had so many Prime Ministers now in the last 10 years, I think it's 6, maybe 7, then a lot of the world's media and a lot of, journalists see it as just a complete farce. So there was a lot more room than potentially in previous years. But yeah, looking back, it was, again, quite a few maybe cliches, well-trodden line from Burnham about hope in every postcode. But now's the chance to try and deliver that.
It's really interesting, actually. I mean, I watched it. And by the way, this isn't a criticism. Was he as nervous as he looked, Burnham?
I mean, it didn't appear to be that nervous from where we were stood. I guess that the microphones and the actual PA system wasn't actually very good on Downing Street. It's very difficult to hear the Prime Minister make his speech. But I think what the kind of thing that I saw is that, again, he was just kind of repeating the similar lines that he's been trotting for the last few weeks. Again, it's quite vague, detail light speeches, more on devolution, whereas I think a lot of the public were trying to find out what's he going to do on the cost of living, what's he going to do on energy, what's he going to do on immigration.
Absolutely right, and that's the point. And so, like, everybody in the press picked up, and they have done this morning. Can I just read something, because it's on Sky and we haven't got it? It's brilliant. Bitchiness in politics is still a right. This morning, Andy Burnham announced that fresh tax cut to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills from October. The truth is, it's 5% and it's going up by 13%. I would seem taken off, but Darren Jones just went, who was sacked yesterday. Excellent news. Well done, the government, cutting that. And then he put, no doubt they'll have to explain how they can afford this new policy in due course. And you think, oh, here we go. We've only just started. Burnham, I think you're right. It was all fine and choreographed, but like you, there are 3 or 4 really big issues that the people on the doorsteps in this country, the people who read The Sun, the people who listen to this show with Alarm Clock Brits would go, hold on, mate, you need to stop the boats, you need to drill in the North Sea, you need to do something about this bloody welfare budget because it's outstripping the people who are working. That's what British working class people want, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I think he's going to have to find ways to deal with that very soon. As you said, the VAT thing, that only lasts for 6 months. What's going to be the plan in the long term for energy? Yeah. Is there going to be drilling in the North Sea? Immigration, again, Shabana Mahmood, for a lot of Brits, that's probably a good move that she stayed in there instead of someone that is a bit softer. But again, how are they going to reduce the levels? There's still 11,000 people that have crossed the channel this year. I mean, I don't think that's acceptable for some readers, never mind the public.
It's going further now with Darren Jones. I'll get your instant reaction. Good news that VAT will be cut on electricity bills. It's a simple way for families to save a few quid and to mechanically help keep inflation that bit lower. But the digital ID programme was unfunded. Oh, dig, because he got rid of that. The government will have to, I guess, set out how it will pay for its new policies at the budget. I can just say, sorry, I'm not being cynical. I'm a patriot, but I can see this blowing up quite quickly. Am I wrong?
I mean, again, Burnham came in to really try and consolidate the party, bring it together. But again, with any reshuffle, that it's always going to create bad blood. And I guess this is just the first sign of it. And I agree, Jeremy, when people lose their jobs, particularly someone like Darren Jones, who was Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, one of the most senior jobs in government, if you're losing that, and there's plenty of ministers that have lost their big jobs in government, it's not going to create a good atmosphere in the Labour Party, and I think this is just a sign of what's to come.
Mate, it's great to have you on the team, and I mean that, and your enthusiasm yesterday online was great. The Sun always on it, and quite rightly covering everything this morning in the paper. Thank you. Tom Scottson, political correspondent for The Sun. Poor bugger has to do what Jack Elsom tells him. It's almost 8 o'clock. We're live across the UK. We kick off with Brendan O'Neill, chief political writer for Spiked. His response to all of yesterday's extraordinary news. 0344 499 for your calls and your voice notes and text to 87222. The news at 8 is next.
crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in Crisis. Subscribe to The Royal Tea from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends, and welcome along. It's just gone 8 o'clock. What is it? Tuesday, the 21st of July, and you're waking up, my friends, yippee, to a new Prime Minister. Yes, Andy Burnham yesterday succeeded in sort of hacking his way, that's the wrong word, I don't know, just getting into 10 Downing Street. Starmer bid a happy, not a tearful goodbye. Burnham acceded to power. He said, and I quote, "I want to do things differently. People are fed up with politics. This is our biggest challenge in 40 years, and we're going to bring back hope in your heart, because we're believing." It was all very nice. It was all very choreographed. Then he stood up and he said, you know, I want to change things. And he said, my first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stop rough sleeping, which is very, very, very good and very great sentiment. And everybody went fantastic. And then everybody checked the details. It's exactly what he said on his first day as a mayor of Manchester. And when he left, rough sleeping had indeed doubled. Then he went in and he created his new cabinet. He purged the Starmerites. Bye-bye Rachel. Hurrah! Bye-bye David Lammy. Double hurrah. Anyway, and then he sort of pulled a few rabbits out the hat. That John Healey, the Chancellor, the guy that resigned from Starmer's government as Defence Secretary, saying you don't agree with defending it, he basically said to him, you go and find the money then. That's down to you. Ed Miliband, Foreign Secretary, neutered. Just leave net zero and go and upset people abroad. Apparently, Harry Cole saying there in the news that the Trump administration not very impressed. Shabana Mahmood stays as Home Secretary. Wes Streeting, Defence, which is interesting, and a few other things. But perhaps the biggest point is two women he's invited back to the Cabinet. One is Angela Rayner. There were rumours she would go into health, but no, she's gone back to her old job in housing, and also been given which is interesting. To buy a house, she needs to pay stamp duty. Just thought I'd drop that in. But also, she, of course, has been given devolution powers as well. So a new, calm, apologetic Angela returns to the Cabinet, along with Louise Haigh. Louise Haigh, interesting, was yesterday, there she is, walking in, awkwardly. She was confirmed as the new Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, but more than that, First Secretary of State. She will be the second most powerful person in the government. This is a woman who was sacked by Keir Starmer 16 months ago for lying that she had a conviction for fraud, which is interesting. But listen, at the end of the day, I've said it all along, I'm a patriot and I want this country to improve. Do I think it'll work? Nope. Do I think there needs to be an election? Yep. Do I think he'll crash and burn them? Absolutely. And it started straight out the blocks at 6:15 this morning. Andy Burnham announced a fresh tax cut. If you're just tuning in, 6:15, he said, I am cutting tax by removing VAT from domestic electricity bills from October the 1st. And everybody went, oh, you've hit the ground running. And then people sussed it out. VAT on electricity, peeps, is 5%. The average bill is 800. Even my maths tell me that that's 40 pounds. Also, just to let you know that energy bills are going up 13% this year. 13% of 800 is about 125 quid. So, in fact, it's not costing you any less. In fact, you haven't saved much. 40 quid, but maybe I'm being cynical. It's caused an argument already in the Labour Party. John Healey, fresh new Chancellor, comes out and says today's energy tax cut will give families some breathing room on bills and provide some reassurance this winter. This will be funded from the cancelled Digital ID scheme, helping to bring down inflation whilst securing and supporting households in every postcode across the UK. new Chancellor. Darren Jones, until yesterday Starmer's right-hand man, bit back straight away. He says, great news that VAT will be cut on electricity bills. It's a simple way for families to save a few quid and to mechanically help to keep inflation that bit lower. But the digital ID programme was unfunded. And I'm looking forward to how the government will set out how it will pay for its new policies at the next budget. So it's only been about 11 hours and they're all fighting like rats in the sack anyway. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. You would talk on breakfast. Paula, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. It's Paula in Liverpool. Sorry, I didn't catch the name of your guest earlier you've just been speaking to about migration. And he said you can't just magically stop it overnight. Well, Australia managed it, or well, not overnight, but you know what I mean, pretty quickly. You just need to stop promising them a house, promising them medical care, promising them benefits, promising them legal aid. You just need to cut it all off, leave the ECHR, turn the boats back, and it'll stop pretty quickly. But there's no will. Thanks, Paula in Liverpool.
Could not agree anymore. We've talked repeatedly on this show about stopping the boats. We heard Starmer say, smash the gangs. Can't do that anymore. Burnham, I don't know what he's going to say. Truth is this. We make it too attractive to come to this country. And the reason millions are up in arm and the reason millions are looking beyond the two main parties is simply this. If you stopped making it so attractive and you didn't wipe their backsides to the detriment of the hard-working Brit, they wouldn't come, would they? They'd go somewhere else. That is a fact. Let's say a very good morning. I love this man. Chief political writer at Spiked. Overcome with emotion, I expect, about yesterday. Brendan O'Neill, good morning.
Hi, Jeremy. How you doing?
Oh, God, you know, mate, sometimes I come in and I think, is it going to be a day of happiness? No, it's not. Yesterday, what was your take on our Andy? I mean, you know, I thought he was going to pitch up in Birkenstocks and a penny farthing, but he had a suit and tie on for now.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all. I'm really trying not to be downbeat and to say it's all going to crash and burn, although I tend to agree with you that it will. But I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes. But I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
Yeah.
But I'm sceptical. Let's put it like that. I'm very sceptical. I just think it feels like they're moving the deck chairs around on the Titanic by getting in a few new faces. It's the same Labour Party. In fact, this might be a worse version of the Labour Party than Keir Starmer's, if you can believe that. But the main point is they don't seem to have any answers to the big questions that British people are asking, which is, are we a sovereign nation? Are we going to become energy independent? Are we going to become a meaningful, free, independent manufacturing nation again or not? These are the kinds of things people are wondering, and Burnham doesn't have answers to that.
I mean, it was quite interesting. I mean, I understand. I'm not stupid. I understand that you're not going to stand on the steps of Downing Street and lay out everything. But I would have thought for a man who patently, and I'll say this, has raised the bar in communications from number 10, but it wasn't very high. I mean, I would have thought that listening and understanding or having your finger on the pulse of the British public is half the deal here, like Brendan. And we've talked about this incessantly, that if you knocked on any door, I think people would be talking about the things that matter: stopping the boats, illegal immigration, welfare bill excesses, net zero, a rape gang inquiry, all the things that really, really wind Britons up. Foreign aid being doubled, you know, at Starmer's last act to 11 billion, but we can't afford to look after pensioners. And I just thought he'd touch upon that. I suspect, and I've read quite a bit about this, they're so up themselves, his lot. They thought they were going to oust Starmer and he was going to hang around till September and they could have the summer to work it out. Well, Starmer, it's the only thing I absolutely applaud him. He said, stuff it, you've got me out of a job, I'm off. Do it yourself.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on that. He's really kind of just pushed them into the deep end. But the thing is that I think
you wanted it, go sort it out, mate.
Exactly. I think Burnham has to walk a fine line. I think that's probably what's going on, because if he were to sweep into Downing Street and say, I'm going to change everything, I'm going to fix everything, I'm going to do things completely differently to Starmer, then people would say, hold on, mate, we need a general election in that case, because no one voted for that. No one voted for you to be Prime Minister. You weren't standing in the 2024 general election. We've never seen your manifesto. Who the hell are you? That's what people would be asking. So he's kind of trying to play a safe, quite cynical game, kind of pretending that he's going to adhere to the manifesto, but I don't actually think he is.
You mean he's going to do what all Labour politicians ultimately do, or prime ministers, which try and be all things to all people, and you end up trying to please too many people, and in the end you just hack off loads. Interesting what Benedict Spence earlier said, Brendan. Love your take on this. He said, I mean, there was that opinion poll, wasn't there, where I think the bounce meant that he was level with reform. I think I think Benedict feels that over the next few weeks and months there'll be a few things like this announcement about VAT on energy bills, or we stripped that bill already, in the next few months, which will say to a lot of people in a few weeks, you know, well, this is good, this is good, this is money, this is money, this is money. But actually, that might create a few points. They might do well, and he might be good to call his own general election. But I do think the British public, I do think and hope they'll suss it out quite quickly.
I think they will. And, you know, it was so interesting that he said his first big aim is going to be to end rough sleeping, because that just raises all sorts of questions in ordinary people's minds, which is, you know, why are there thousands of men from God knows where in our hotels and still British people sleeping on the streets? So even that raises questions about what we're doing as a country. Who are we prioritizing? Why are we not putting homeless people in hotels and putting illegal immigrants back on boats to where they came from? There are so many questions that he can't answer. And also, anyone who's been to Manchester recently and gone to Piccadilly Gardens, which used to be a beautiful part of
Manchester.
Called
Crackadilly now.
Crackadilly. He's under his rule, it has been completely surrendered to crackheads, to illegal immigrants, to violent men, to people who sleep there or try to sleep there before they get moved on. I would just say to anyone, if they think Burnham is going to fix this country, go to Piccadilly Gardens. Look what's happened to the centre of Manchester. It is a complete tragedy, and that's happened under his watch.
And let's be honest, I'm not sugarcoating this. I'm not, you know, I talked about Healy. You're absolutely right. Rough sleeping has doubled in Manchester. It dropped initially when he made it his big priority, and then he went onto the B buses and it's doubled. Let's talk about his announcement at 6:15 this morning. I'm not, again, being cynical. I'm reporting it as is fact. He hit the ground running. He announced a fresh cut to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills from October the 1st. I'm doing this because it's rolling news, because people will tune in. Everybody went, oh, that's great, and then they looked at it. The average bill, Brendan, 800 quid. VAT on domestic properties, 5%. It's a saving of 40 quid. That's not to be sniffed at. But then bills are going up 13% by the end of the next couple of months, so it's a complete thing. Have you seen the argument that's already raging between Healy and Darren Jones?
Yeah. It's, you know... you know, it's like me and you are sitting here trying so hard not to be cynical about the new government.
I want my country to be better, but I don't believe it. I think it's BS.
Yeah, me too. And I think that energy bill is a very good example of it, because that is just about tweaking tiny things and not addressing the big issues. So one thing that we've heard is that Burnham might be more open to drilling for oil and so on, but we need more clarity on that. Is he going to wind back net zero? Probably not. Is he going to dig for as much oil and gas as this country has to offer? Probably not. Is he going to make us an energy independent nation like we were for centuries, the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution? Probably not. And all he says instead is, I'll trim 40 quid of the average electricity bill. He's tweaking tiny things because he doesn't have the answers to the big questions, and he doesn't have those answers because he is actually more similar to Keir Starmer.
I don't think it's even that, see. I think he's more of a political animal than Keir Starmer. Straight away, I can see that. They are all hamstrung by the different factions in the Labour Party. We keep talking about benefit, right? Anybody with a brain cell would go, right, so there's $335 billion being paid out to people who ain't working, and we've got $332 billion coming in if you do work, which is a negative message. So get rid of the ideology in the Labour Party, because it was set up to help people who can't help themselves. We all feel the same, but actually what's happened is people are gaming the system. So I'm going to use my political capital and tell my parliamentary party, I reckon there's £50 billion worth of savings from people taking their out of the system, and I'm going to do that. That would resonate with the British people straight away. But he can't do that. Keir Starmer couldn't even do $5 billion. How's he going to do the boat thing? You start thinking about the... I mean, net zero fascinates me because, of course, Miliband, I should ask you this, neutered, jettisoned, under the auspices of the best job ever, Foreign Secretary. Is that a clever move, do you think?
I mean, at least he's not in the Treasury. That's important because he is basically anti-industry, anti-modernity, anti-growth. We know that because he's one of the most goggle-eyed adherents to the net zero cult. So we know that Miliband would have been a disaster in control of our economy. So that's good. But in relation to Foreign Secretary, the thing that worries me is that Miliband likes to appeal to the left. He loves to flatter the left. He loves getting retweets from lefties. And he has said very critical things about Israel, and he did support fully the recognition of Palestine, which I think was a disaster, and essentially rewarded Hamas for what it did in Israel on 7th of October. So there are worries there, and some of our allies are going to be saying, what is he doing?
Well, I think there's Americans. I think that there's rumours that the Americans aren't that happy. His replacement energy secretary, Miata Fambula, what do we know about her?
Not much. I don't know much about her, but what I do know, and this is really touches on a point you've made, Jeremy, which I think is the key point, which is that Burnham is going to be beholden to the factions of the party. And we know that there are factions that are absolutely opposed to trimming the welfare bill. In fact, they prevented Starmer from doing some of that. We know there are factions who are absolutely opposed to stopping the boats or sending back migrants because they think Britain should be open to everyone on earth. And we know there are factions who are completely devoted to the psychotic green ideology. So all the things that ordinary people want the government to do, which is to stop the boats, grow the economy, trim that stupid welfare bill, it's going to be difficult for Burnham to do that, even if he wanted to, because the party will be like an albatross around his neck. That's the problem we face.
And of course the problem is, and this is really, you know, down there and dirty in terms of what I'm going to say, the view from the cheap seats is always a really nice one, and he has absolutely orchestrated a coup against Keir Starmer, who, by the way, I love Keir Starmer to have been what he was in the last 10 days since he knew he was toast for the last 2 years, but he was massively over-promoted and unable to do that job, and that is an absolutely true point, right? But, you know, apart from being hamstrung by different factions and the BBC bending over and saying, we'll do anything for you, Andy, the fact of the matter is you can't, I've learnt this, you can't not now believe that the British public, the silent majority, say every day have woken up and they're cynical and they want to strip things down. Within 2 minutes of that announcement about VAT, I had 20 messages saying this is rubbish, Jez. Let's get the detail here. Yeah. What about his choices as well? I suppose when you're putting together a cabinet, Brendan, you've got to try and talk about the factionalism that you talked about. And this is not me being negative. He's kept Jonathan Reynolds as business secretary, lied on his CV about being a solicitor. He's brought Angela Rayner back in as housing secretary, and more power with devolution. She doesn't know how to pay, what is it, what's the tax called? It's gone from my head. Thank you, stamp duty. And then we've got Louise Haigh, the second most powerful person in the new government, who's a convicted fraudster. What's she taking all of that?
Dodgy people. And also, it really reminds you that we're witnessing something quite undemocratic. I mean, that's the truth of it. And I know that we live in a parliamentary system, not a presidential system. We vote a party into power, not an individual. I get all that. But there is a limit to that. There is a limit to how much people can put up with that. And some of these people were put out of office over the past 2 years because of scandalous behavior, because they told lies, because they weren't forthright about things that happened in their past in relation to Louise Haigh. And yet now they're back. On whose authority are they back? And on whose authority is Burnham going to enforce a whole new devolutionary manifesto that he says will radically transform the country? So when I see Angela Rayner waltzing into Downing Street, I just feel powerless as a voter. I think to myself, I don't want this. I'm sure there are many people who don't want this, and yet it's been foisted down our throats by a prime minister that no one voted for apart from 25,000 people in Makerfield. So it is a coup. It is outrageous. And then, but on top of that, you have the BBC. I don't know if any of your viewers and listeners watched BBC Newsnight last night. It was like Soviet propaganda. Yeah. I mean, their tongues were out of their mouths. They were just gagging over Andy Burnham as this messianic savior of the country. It was absolutely mortifying. And I think that's a taste of what's to come.
Well, we all know. I mean, this is the BBC. Did you see that bloody dreadful advert in the middle of the World Cup final begging for people? I am beyond. You know, I used to I'm being completely serious. Being the age I am, the BBC was really important. I can't even have it on. I think it. I don't care what anybody tells me. I think it is overpriced, self-indulgent, arrogant, left-wing bias. And if that's my national broadcaster, I don't want anything to do about it. Honestly, I think it's appalling. You can see pictures now of Louise Hay. That's the. You know, she. Yeah. I mean, she will be the most powerful person. She will be his eyes and ears.
Yeah. You know, the thing that's really getting on my wick, and a few people have made this point now, is that whenever the Times or the BBC or anyone else refers to George Cotterill, one of the guys who gives money to Nigel Farage, they always say convicted felon, you know, former convict George, posh George. But they don't say that about Louise Hay. They don't say convicted fraudster Louise Hay. She doesn't have that moniker attached to her name every time she's mentioned on TV or radio. So we just see those double standards time and time again.
But my opinion is, and I know you and I share this more in our DNA almost, right? That's fine. But what the establishment fails to understand is that millions of Britons now see this for what it is. Yeah. And that is why you write what you write, which is what I do. I want my country to succeed, but I am not going to allow the BS that politicians and certain mainstream media and certainly the BBC propagate every day to be the only thing people hear, because it's not the truth. It's not.
Absolutely right. I could not agree more. And there was something about seeing Burnham and his gang of people outside Downing Street. I just thought to myself, this looks to me like another set of smug politicians who don't really understand the public. And that is the story of the Labour Party in the 21st century. They've removed themselves from ordinary working class people. They've gone for the middle class vote and the Muslim vote. That's what Burnham's going to try and do as well. And then neglecting ordinary people who have grave concerns about the future of this country. I don't see Burnham turning that around for the Labour Party.
Couldn't agree more. We love having you on. You're a legend. Brendan O'Neill, thank you, my friend. Great to have you on. Chief Political Writer at Spiked Online. Check it out. Fantastic. 8:23. We're live across the United Kingdom. Are we going to Westminster or are we going to... We are going to... He's in Westminster, is he, our next guest? Blimey, O'Reilly, I thought they were on holiday. James Cartledge, good morning. Shadow Secretary of State for Defence. How are you?
No holiday. We're working to hold the government to account. Come on.
God, the line's awful. Is that the line or is that me, Christian? Because I can hardly hear poor James. Just hold on one second if we can, James. We're going to come back to you. Just want to read a couple of texts. Read what Paula from Liverpool said. The migration is a benefit to Labour. These are new voters. Everything they do and say is performative. If immigrants coming in were seen as a benefit to reform, it would be shut down tomorrow. That's Johnny from up north. Morning, Jez, says Dorian Rees. Dorian says, aren't all policy announcements supposed to be told to Parliament first? I'd love to hear what the Speaker views of Andy Burnham's thing yesterday. Emma in Kent. What the heck is dressing? Who the heck is dressing? This is from her, not me. Who the heck is dressing these female MPs? Their clothes look awful, poorly fitting and far too big. Morning, Jezza, says Michael Wilkinson. As a normal alarm clock Brit, working class, I can get that Labour needed rid of Starmer and followed the Tories in announcing a new PM without recourse to voters. The Tories then and Labour now know what's coming the next time they stand before us. What I can't get about Birmingham is why he's trolling voters by reappointing the fraudster Hay and the stamp duty dodger Rayner to high office. Does he understand? With those two actions, he's burned through my goodwill that I had, which is gone. Certainly from me. It's just more of the same. Mike in Lincoln on a 1-hour commute. Let's try again. Of course he's working. The Shadow Secretary of State for Defence. James Cartledge, good morning, sir.
Good morning, is that better?
Oh, much better. I thought you lot were on recess, but the Tory party are putting the hours in. Everybody else is in their constituencies, man.
Well, I'm here in Westminster to hold the government to account. Later I'll be going to Farnborough to support the defence industry in the Farnborough Air Show. Yep, we're still working. It has to be said, unlike someone in the heart of government, because the thing that I can't get over is we have a brand new Prime Minister and within minutes his flagship announcement on VAT on electricity bills has already completely unravelled because it's got no way of paying for it. I'm actually genuinely astonished at this. Maybe we shouldn't be surprised.
Well, I want to help you out.
Previous point.
I want to help you out, Mr. Cartledge, because I don't do X, but it's already caused a bust up. Have you heard this? So he announced...
Yeah,
he announced at 6:15 for people tuning in that VAT would be cut on domestic electricity bills, which is 5%. It's about £40, nothing to be sniffed at. But then, of course, the messaging about how you're going to pay for it, and certainly the other thing, which was actually bills are going up by 15% at the end of the year anyway, which negates it. But then John Healey was on Twitter saying, this is fantastic, it'll help support households in every postcode, new Chancellor. Followed quickly by Darren Jones, axed yesterday on a Starmerite, who says, great news on that, but the digital ID programme that they axed yesterday was unfunded, and I look forward to seeing how the government will pay for its new policies. So they're fighting amongst themselves already, Mr Cartledge.
It is absolutely incredible. Let's not forget, Darren Jones is not a Conservative like me in the opposition. He was at the heart of a Labour government, and he's come out and said what is now obvious: there's no money to pay for this. And let me just explain that point for your viewers and listeners, which is that I doubt many of them read the OBR's Economic and Fiscal Outlook. Good luck to them if they have, but it was published last November. Now, the OBR is the premium commentator, if you like, on the public finances, and there's a sentence in that document which says no specific saving measures have been found to pay for digital ID. So if you say you're going to pay for this tax cut with the money saved from scrapping digital ID, that's a complete phantom of a policy. There is no money there. It's been exposed by Darren Jones, and this is within minutes. As you say, this was announced earlier this morning. I'm on the same morning round that they've announced it. I'm now responding to it to discover that this is the emperor's new clothes, a policy without any way to pay for it. And a serious point here. Everyone watching this will be worried about the cost of living. It remains a big challenge. It's my constituents' biggest issue. You'd expect if you get a chunky policy like cutting tax on electricity bills, it would be thought through, but already completely unravelling. So very serious.
I always say now about your party, and I don't know. I mean, there's a point to this. I was super critical, you know this, of how long it took Kemi Badenoch to come out and say anything. But what I kept being told by the Tory party was that you were costing. And I absolutely I put my hands up to that, because patently this is another example of clickbait headlines, whatever, OK, which the Tory party has sourced and costed things out. I looked at yesterday, I'd love your take on yesterday, and I thought, yeah, look, the communication is infinitely better than it was 20 minutes ago under Starmer, but the bar was so low. But already, on the basis of all... Because I expect there's going to be lots of little announcements. To me, it goes to this, which is, I think the British people, after your government had lost the trust of the British people, you know that, James, and now this lot, a biggest majority in 2 years, they boot out Starmer. I want politicians to understand that the silent majority, they're not stupid. They're taking far more interest. The text immediately went, how's he paying for that? No, bloody hell, that's great. Exactly. And I think that you really, not you, politicians will misjudge how people really feel unless they're totally honest here on in. Really do.
Look, totally right. Look, I was a Treasury Minister and a Defence Minister. I've always passionately believed that if you want to do something as a politician, you must set out how you'll pay for it. Because people, and as you say, they're not stupid. They know they can't have their cake and eat it. If you want to give one thing, something else has got to, you know, be scaled back, deprioritised, etc. And I'll give you a classic example. I'm sure your viewers, like me, think that the Chagos deal is completely insane. We know, and we've seen it, there is a line of funding for Chagos to go to Mauritius this Parliament, several £100 million. We think that money could be reallocated to the Navy to accelerate the build of our new frigates, so we have more ships in the seas, especially what the Russians have been doing recently and overnight. So the point is, that is a way of paying for the policy. So if I say to your viewers, you know what, we need to strengthen the Navy, here's how we're doing it, they can at least trust that part of the policy because there is some money to pay for it. But when politicians, and it always happens, they come out and say things and they don't have the money to pay for it, they haven't got the plan. That is the problem. And what we see from Starmer, Freudian slip, from Andy Burnham, is he hasn't got a plan. And maybe that's the point. They're the same, because this is what did for Starmer. They wanted to fund defence. They didn't have a way to pay for it. John Healey resigned. John Healey becomes Chancellor of the Exchequer. The very first announcement is a tax cut. He's the Chancellor, and they haven't got a way to pay for it. So it's already unravelling, exposing the fact that just like Starmer, Burnham hasn't got a plan.
Can I ask you a question? Because I reckon I could change the defence system, our need of defence overnight. Yesterday, and one of the last things that the Prime Minister did before he resigned or was forced out was they agreed to double foreign aid, James, to £11 billion. And again, it's very contentious for some people because they'll say stuff like, oh, Great Britain's always been a moral leader and we don't know what it's like to live on I know we don't. But if you say to average Brits nowadays, right, I'm sorry about your energy bills, your mortgage costs, the fact you're losing your jobs, the fact that towns, there's no... all those sorts of things. I bet the majority would go, sorry to put this bluntly, sorry, sod foreign aid. We need to build ships and prisons and get our army in the right equipment, protect our nation and do right by the indigenous population. Why is that so wrong?
And look, without wishing to be a stuck record, there will be some people who do agree with more aid spending. For the reasons you've set out, that's certainly not our policy. No. But I think the point is, again, where's the money going to come from? It's a vast amount of money. You can't both spend the money on aid and on defence. When Kemi said in February 25, you've got to increase defence spending more than we thought because the threat is growing, she said you should be willing to use the aid budget, willing to use welfare. And in fact, and it goes back to this point of funding things with difficult decisions, we've said we would restore the two-child benefit cap, which we brought in when we were in government, and we used the savings to fund defence. Not everyone will agree with that, but it is clear you're taking that decision. The problem is when you get politicians who promise everything to everyone, and in many ways that was Starmer's undoing. That's why he failed to fund defence and his position unravelled. It's amazing that within minutes Andy Burnham is doing the same. He's promising billions for aid. Where's the plan to pay for that? How does that not affect the defence budget? He's promising this money for electricity. He identified a way to pay for it which hadn't been funded. So this is what politics is about, difficult decisions, running the country, and already I'm afraid Burnham has been found wanting.
Just one final thing. You're the shadow defence secretary. John Healey resigned on principle. I think a lot of people in Parliament would respect John Healey for that decision, but you're right. Is it genius by Burnham or muddle? Because he's basically now saying to the bloke, you wanted more money for defence, you go and find it. His successor, Wes Streeting, how do you respond to that this morning? Wes Streeting, the new defence secretary.
Well, look, I tweeted Wes Streeting, I wished him well because, the defence is about the national interest and we want to have strong defence, whoever's in government. Yep. And actually, Kemi wrote to Burnham yesterday, she said, this is about the national interest. We'll work with you because, it's going to be tough to find the money to fund defence and you'll have our votes if you do the right thing and make those difficult decisions. Because, as you say, we've got to fund the armed forces, send that powerful message to Putin that we're not going to be bullied around by his ships in our waters or anything else. But once again, the big question, as you say, John Healey resigned, there wasn't enough money for defence. He's become Chancellor. He wasn't the reason he was resigning was there was no way to pay for more spending for defence. And he's announced a policy, because he's a Chancellor, so he must be behind the VAT policy, and there's no way to pay for it. So he's committing the same problem, if you like. And so it's very concerning, the complete absence of a plan from Andy Burnham. If you come in as Prime Minister and you deliver a major policy on the biggest issue for the British people, which is the cost of living, domestically, that's surely the biggest concern. Putting defence and everything to one side, that's the biggest international issue. But at home today, for people, they're worried about how they pay for their bills. They've been given this wonderful idea, lower tax on energy bills, and it has completely unravelled. And that is extremely worrying about what's going to happen under this government. But we'll be here holding them to account, whether in Westminster or anywhere else.
James, always great to have you on, my friend. I really appreciate it. And there he is in Westminster, jacket and tie and suit, doing the business for the Tory party. And our Prime Minister, our new Prime Minister, refuses to face up to Parliament. The Tories asked for Parliament to be recalled. Thank you so much, James. But that actually didn't happen. So we've got a Prime Minister who, for the next 6 weeks, can announce policy, not to the Commons himself, won't be challenged on it by elected representatives. Awful, awful look. Your thoughts on that and everything else in the news? 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Morning, Johnny.
Morning, Jezza. It's Johnny in the van. Just listening to all these fantastic promises that the new Messiah is giving us. There's an old saying where I come from, when all that glitters isn't gold, and it's quite relevant to the Labour Party. You can't polish a turd, but you can roll it in glitter. That sums up Andy Burnham to me, mate. Great show, mate. Keep it up.
current affairs, international news, letting criminals off while sending... Oi! Oi! You shut up. I'm trying to record something.
Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of breaking news, challenging views. I don't give a flying damn about international law. I think people will viscerally reject this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I forgot to tell you this morning, I have some breaking news personally myself. My wife just sent me a picture. My kids are away with their grandparents and their mother on holiday, lovely, in the Cotswolds, which is fantastic. And last week, my wife's car, big car, because so many bloody shits, so it goes into the garage. And I'm not going to tell you who makes it, but they had to recall it. For an issue. And no, as this is genuinely a true story, and they said there's only 4% of them that have a problem. Oh, yours has got a massive problem. So we're gonna have to give you another car for a week while your wife goes away. I'm still in a hotel on my own, on with Todd, no life, right? They deliver a brand new, I mean, it's a 120 grand car, right? Literally, with 90 miles on the clock, right? She's gone to the Cotswolds. I'm working yesterday afternoon. I get quite a tearful voice note. Iris... 2 disappears. The cottage is fine. And then they hear this scratching noise. Iris thought it would be a good idea to draw a picture on the side of the car with a stone. With a stone. So today's show is being donated, the fee, to BMW. Thank you, Iris. 0344. It's a true story. Draw a picture on a brand new BMW with a stone. That's a good start to midday. And you think you've got problems, Andy Burnham. You don't know what you're talking about. Morning, George.
Morning, Jeremy. George in Leicester. So, Andy Pandy's taking 5% off the VAT domestic electricity. Just a little point to make here to everyone. Electricity prices went up 130% at the start of the Ukraine war. 130%. So the average kilowatt in the United Kingdom used to be 15 pence per kilowatt as a day rate. It's now averaging 35 pence per kilowatt. So maybe I'm getting my maths wrong here, but doesn't that mean that they're still up by 125%? You can't make this up, mate. Have a good show.
No, you can't. Loads of you texting. Wendy, you said Healy resigned on principle. I don't think so. He was instrumental in the ending of Starmer. Now he's got a better job, all part of the backstabbing coup, dear boy. Hello to Phil in Thurrock. Shouldn't a VAT cut be a Chancellor announcement rather than a PM announcement? Who's in charge? Well, whoever is has made a massive mistake already. Morning, Jezza Emma in Kent here. I can see this government finding another 22 billion black hole. Morning to Gary in Bridgewater. A word of advice: if you want respect at work or for the job you do, forget the tie, try a new career. Brilliant. Jeremy, the Who got it right. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. We won't get fooled again, says Dave in South Gloucester. Dave's in Cardiff. It'll be interesting to see how Wes Streeting responds to a Russian vessel this morning doing a live firing exercise 46 miles off the UK coast. With their aggression, we should make it clear to Russia that they invade our waters or airspace and they accept the consequences. If Burnham wants to go back to the 80s, then let's see if he has the bottle, like Margaret Thatcher did, to stand up to people who behave like this against the United Kingdom. Christina. Hi, JK. Cut on VAT for electricity. Now, that's the carrot. Now, when is the stick coming? Great show, Christina. Margaret in Birmingham. Andy B is using his new broom. Reeves, Lammy, Hermer, gone. Brilliant. Now he has to listen to the people. Stop the boats. He can do it, but so far not a word. Clear up Park Lane for a start. Get on TV and address the bloody country. And finally, Hayden in Grimsby in the northeast. In Lincolnshire, we have rough sleepers. However, what we found is that many who refuse to come off the streets, they don't want to at all, because a lot of them are migrants. Interesting. 0344 499 1000. Let me tell you about dedication, ladies and gentlemen. James Cartledge, whilst Parliament's all in recess because the Labour Party don't want to be out, he's at work. And somebody who works non-stop for this company is on a 2-week holiday, but she has voluntarily said that she'll work on this show. We love her. Isabel Oakshott, good morning.
Good morning. Well, I'm a little bit nervous because I'm in North Africa, and while you were talking about your disaster with the car, the internet connection went a bit wobbly. So if you lose me, then this is why. But we'll give it a go. I have to say I was horrified by that story. The stone drawing on the car. Oh my God.
And what can you say to a 2-year-old? I mean, honestly, we wouldn't listen anyway. I was on FaceTime to her and she hid under the dining room table because she won't look. I said, listen, it doesn't matter. It's only money. But yeah, drawing is one thing, but doing it with a stone on the side of a brand new BMW is in fact something else. Isabel, thank you, my darling. I know you're on holiday and we appreciate your time. Let's start with yesterday. What did you make? I mean, the bar was so low, communications-wise, it was raised. It was very real and very nice, wasn't it?
I mean, absolutely. And people will have seen somebody who sort of sounded ordinary and normal and was talking fluently without a load of notes. He doesn't sound like a robot or a cardboard box. So that's a win relative to the last guy. I'm just very worried, really, about his agenda. I mean, I'm sure we've spent much of the programme talking about the cabinet choices, but I'm more concerned, rather than the individuals he's appointed, which is probably quite meaningless to millions of people, it's what he's talking about doing that worries me. And you mentioned about rough sleeping. I mean, it's such a strange thing for him to have, a goal for him to have set himself. He says he's going to end rough sleeping. He should know from his own experience in Manchester, where he put that at the heart of his agenda, and rough sleeping has actually gone up during his tenure. This is a really dangerous thing to say you're going to do, because every person huddled in a doorway, every tented shanty town on Park Lane is going to be wheeled out as a demonstration of his own failure. So I thought, yeah, of course it's a desirable goal, but it's certainly not possible when you're not talking about dealing with illegal immigration. I mean, so many, as we saw from Samara's great report last week, so many of the people that are setting up these filthy shanties in our city centres have very questionable immigration status.
And here's a question for you, all the way to North Africa. You stand up and you make... You're so right. He said that on day one in Manchester. He was interested in it. It dropped a bit. I'll be factual. Now it has doubled as he went on to other things. The truth is you then put a target on your back. And I understand we can criticise him for no detail. But the truth of the matter is, here's a question. That shanty town, that Samara's amazing report where they abused her and the cameraman because they dared to say, why are illegal migrants here? Pickpockets and the like, probably on benefits. Is Andy Burnham going to have them removed? I bet he won't, because that would upset someone on the left of the Labour Party who would be talking about how difficult it is to be a migrant. I just felt really strongly yesterday that and I know you'll agree that if you knocked on door, he goes on about postcodes, doesn't he? If you knocked on any door, north, south, east and west, I suspect that whatever your political persuasion, one of the big five, as I say, the welfare, the net zero, immigration, the rape gang inquiry, these welfare, I think that he needed to touch at least on those to say to people, even if he doesn't have a plan, I'm going to bring you something. I understand it was all a bit vacuous, if you want me to be honest.
Oh, and I think he was trying to set a sense of direction, and he does look like a guy who's rolling up his sleeves and might be in charge of a city, for example, which is exactly what he's been doing. But when it comes to the big picture stuff, I'm just genuinely very concerned about what it means for Alarm Clock Britain. He's already talking about trying to borrow more money, seeing if there's any flexibility in the rules. I mean, we're already borrowing far too much. He didn't make any reference, did he, to tackling the abuse of the welfare state, which is on such an enormous scale. He should have done that just to be a bit counterintuitive, even if he's trying to play to the left-wing, hard left gallery. And the total failure to mention immigration is deeply concerning because it feeds into so many of the other problems that he will acknowledge are there.
And also, let's be perfectly honest, let's call it out for what it is. The cynics amongst Britons, and there are millions, believe that the Labour Party / government are all for illegal migration because those people will be so grateful for how we wipe their backsides when they come over here that they will vote for the government that's allowed that. But I want to give you some detail that you might or might not know. The VAT announcement, he made this at 6:15. This is brilliant. This explains to me why the British public are so on it. At 6:15, Andy Burnham, I'm on the front foot. I've announced a fresh tax cut to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills. If you are tuning in essence, this is a con. I'm just being honest. I'm not being cynical. If it wasn't, I'd say it. Your average bill is £800. VAT on domestic bills, 5%. That's a £40 saving. But of course, 13% is the rise on your electricity bill before the end of the year. So this gets announced, Isabel. John Healey, the new Chancellor, who must have been behind this, writes, today's energy tax cut will give families some breathing room on bills and provide some reassurance this winter. This will be funded from the cancelled digital ID scheme this year, helping to bring down inflation while supporting households in every postcode. And guess what happened, Isabel? Within 30 seconds of John Healey doing that, the now ex-Secretary of State for the Prime Minister, Darren Jones, unceremoniously dumped yesterday, put, good news that VAT will be cut on electricity bills. It's a simple way for families to save a few quid and to mechanically help to keep inflation a bit lower. But the digital ID programme was unfunded for information, and I look forward to the government setting out how it's going to pay for its new policies at the budget. They're arguing like rats in a sack already.
Oh, that's delicious, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is meow.
I know.
From him. Somebody's not happy about being out of office. Wow.
I mean, that's straight away. And then people are texting me, Isabel, going, I thought the Speaker doesn't like Prime Ministers making policy announcements. It's supposed to be in the Commons, but they won't recall the Commons because he then would have to face scrutiny.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to become very tough for Andy Burnham very, very quickly because the fundamental realities of where we are as a country, the biggest problems we face are not the ones that he is prepared to meet head on. In fact, he's going much further to the left and solutions that will merely add to the division in our country. And I think what we've seen here is going to lay the ground for further division in our politics, which is exactly what, of course, he doesn't want. He says he doesn't want it. I believe he doesn't want it. But he's not going to govern in the middle there, is he?
Nope.
He's lurching to the left. Clearly, this is an effort to sort of further kill off the Greens. You know, the steam has gone out of the Greens rather a lot quicker than I imagine, but they still remain a significant political threat to Labour. And I think he's trying to square that off, announcing all sorts of crazy stuff, like the increase in the foreign aid budget. That's bonkers. You know, the majority of
how many ships could we buy for our Navy and how many prisons could we build for 11 billion quid spent on other countries when our own country's on its bloody knees? Unbelievable to me. I
mean, that is completely and utterly bonkers. And I haven't looked at the polling on national opinion on foreign aid, but I'm pretty sure there's a very significant majority of Brits right now who are not in favour of increasing foreign aid. In fact, quite the reverse.
Yeah.
So I think that will really come back to bite him. And I think we're going to see more polarisation. I mean, the Tories and Reform this morning will be pretty pleased by what Andy Burnham is doing because it gives them clear ground for their own sort of policy agenda. You know, he's not stealing any Tory or Reform clothes. One other thing I would observe from yesterday, this is not the rhetoric or content from Andy Burnham that is suggesting to me that there will be any prospect of an early election. He is not planning that. If there were to be an early election, he would have had to have been utterly forced into it. I think this guy's going to go long, folks. I think we are stuck with him for near enough another 3 years.
Listen, we so appreciate you taking time out. Our regards to Mr. T and enjoy your break. And thank you as ever for working so hard. Isabel Oakeshott, Talks International Editor. Morning, Caroline.
Hi, Jeremy. I had to call you. Burnham is just gaslighting in a very different way to Starmer. Nothing is going to change. This has all been planned for ages. Very strange, isn't it, that Healey is now the Chancellor when he gave his notice and resigned and Starmer's government. There's many strange things. They are going to do nothing. They are still totally left-wing. And unless more people, and I'm talking about a lot more people, wake up in this country, we are in trouble. We are just sitting ducks. I don't trust Burnham as far as I can throw him. Sleeping Rough has gone through the roof in Manchester. He's done, what has he done? Absolutely nothing. He's a good talker. He looks the part and people fall for it. And absolutely terrifying.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 7 minutes tonight. Interesting final hour of the programme. We've got the new chairman of Reform UK, Lee Anderson, live and exclusive at 9 o'clock. We've got Jack Elson, political editor of The Sun, and Lord Robert Hayward, Tory peer, pollster, and a man with his finger on the pulse. Loads of you trying to get on the show today. 87222. Jeremy, I'll tell you a smart move Burnham could do, as we have done here in Malaysia. Cut petrol prices in the UK by 30%, funded by revenue gain from drilling in the North Sea. We have this in Malaysia, huge savings, and everyone very, very happy. Jez, where do all the cabinet rejects go? Well, I'll tell you what I want to ask, and I'll ask Lee Anderson this. You know, Rayner and Haig are back in the cabinet. They were paid £17,000 as a sort of severance when they were sacked for not being good enough. Do they give that 17 grand back? Push the button, MG, or even M, for a bit of sport, my friend, MG.
In 90 seconds, from The Sun.
We say a very good morning to Simon Collins from The Sun. Simon, good morning.
Good morning, how are we doing?
Well, I'm as peed off about the football as I was the other day. Just one thing, apparently you're an Arsenal reporter. Saka, I thought he was injured and couldn't play in the semi-final and then turned up in the third place final and scored a hat-trick. That just about sums Thomas Tuchel up, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say there were already questions after Tuchel after that semi-final defeat, and then when Saka and Rice put in performances like that in the third, fourth playoff, I don't think that helps the fans' mood after the win.
Also, very quickly, I'm quite critical of Tuchel. I want us to get Pep Guardiola at all costs. To see overnight, Pep Guardiola is opening talks with the Italian FA about being their next head coach. The FA have to grab him, don't they?
Yeah, and actually Martin Lipton's column in our paper today makes that exact point. I think when you get a manager like Guardiola on the market, regardless of your situation, you've got to make the move for it.
Let's just talk back page. Brilliant, respectful article. Kevin Keegan, what a great he was. Dying yesterday, aged 75. All-time great. Toon sorrow as game mourns a hero. Impossible, really, in today's world to over-egg how important and how much of a superstar Kevin Keegan was, Simon.
Yeah, and immensely loved. And this is the nice thing we've sort of seen over the past 24 hours, the stories coming out about his generosity away from the pitch and also the impact he had on so many people, particularly Newcastle. I think that great team they managed, so entertaining, and also Liverpool for his performance on the pitch. And yeah, I think the tributes kind of tell you all you need to know about Kevin Keegan and the impact he had.
It's really interesting across, TalkSpot, our sister station. There's genuine sorrow today. And also, I was reading Shearer saying, my mate, my hero, my manager. He was really he sort of carried the torch early doors for English footballers, didn't he? He really did set a standard.
Yeah, and if you think of what he did at the time, going over to Hamburg, winning the Ballon d'Or, we have a lot of these players for England who are big superstars, but Keegan, as you say, was that sort of torchbearer. And I think the fact that you see these tributes now is such a testament to him as a person. And yeah, I mean, Alan Shearer, I think, summed it up best with the words he said.
Shearer said to me once, I know him, he said that you think about golf and you think how Ballesteros opened up opportunities for the rest of golf to go to America and be involved in bigger tournaments. I think Keegan's legacy will be that he made it possible for British footballers to go abroad because he was the ultimate success, as you said, when he went to Hamburg, right?
Yeah, massively. And if you look at Harry Kane now over in the Bundesliga right now with Bayern Munich, that doesn't really happen unless Keegan goes there and proves to the people in Germany that English players can perform abroad. He really was the first man to take those big steps.
Good man, Simon. Thank you. Great stuff about the late, great Kevin Keegan in The Sun today. Loads as well about as the continued fallout from the World Cup. Will Tuchel stay? Will they get Guardiola? Almost 9 o'clock, as I said. The brand new chairman of Reform and MP for Ashfield. He is next on the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. Lee Anderson after the news at 9, which is next.
Current affairs, international news, letting criminals off while sending... Oi! Oi! You shut up! I'm trying to record something.
Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of breaking news, challenging views. I don't give a flying damn about international law. I think people will viscerally reject this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, just gone 9 o'clock. Welcome along or welcome back to a new dawn. It's a new era. Andy Burnham, or Andy Vermin, as some of you already unfairly call him, or Andy Burden, is the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Yesterday, this orderly transition saw Keir Starmer disappear off with his tail between his legs to be replaced by our Andy, who's made... Actually, let's just have this out, because I'm sort of one eye on the BBC. They're never going to talk about the fallout, but he's made a couple of announcements, OK? Yesterday, he stood in Downing Street and said, and I quote, not his words, not mine, "I want to end rough sleeping." Excuse me, shush, everybody can hear you. We want to end rough sleeping, right? So here's what I'm going to say to you. That's fair enough, but here's the thing. He said that on day one when he was Manchester Mayor, and if you look at the figures, there was a slight drop, and then it rose as he moved on to other things. And today, in Crackadilly, which is the centre of Manchester, and I live there, that's the truth, rough sleeping has doubled. So immediately he puts a target on his back, and immediately now people will say, well, what about the gangs of migrants living just off Park Lane that we saw in Samara's amazing piece when she and the cameraman were attacked for daring to say to illegal migrants who probably spend all day pickpocketing, OK, you need to leave, right? That's the first thing. Today, 6:15, straight out the traps. I thought, bloody hell, that's quite impressive. He made an announcement of a tax cut. Put this out at 6:15 to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills. Two people went, wow, and then the reality hit home. Your average bill is, what, 800 quid? 5% is your VAT on domestic energy bills. That's £40. That's a saving and not to be sniffed at, but your bills are going up by 13% towards the end of the year anyway, so it's nothing. But that's the less interesting bit. The best bit is that already they're arguing amongst themselves. John Healey, it's on screen, the new Chancellor, backed up that 6:15 announcement by saying, today's energy tax cut will give families some breathing room on bills and provide some reassurance this winter. This will be funded from the cancelled digital ID scheme this year, helping to bring down inflation whilst supporting households in every postcode. And we all thought, great. But straight away, the man who got fired yesterday because he was Starmer's right-hand man, Darren Jones, bit back, and this is what he said. Great news that VAT will be cut on electricity bills. It's a simple way for families to save a few quid and to mechanically help to keep inflation that bit lower. But the digital ID programme was unfunded. I look forward to when the government sets out how it's going to pay for its new policies at the next budget. So they're fighting like rats in a ship. And I got me thinking, right? So we're going to end homelessness. We're going to cut your electricity bills, both of which are lies. What will be his third announcement? Will it be third time lucky? Will it be something that he actually is going to do and can afford? He's only been in the job 18 bloody hours. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Lee Anderson, Chairman of Reform, on the way very soon. J.K. Burnham gave us zero insight into his phone conversation with President Trump. I think that tells you everything. Trump and his administration are watching very closely. Our special relationship, which is already under threat, will disappear completely if we lurch even further to the left. Be very interesting to see what happens. I have to say, Dan's in Kent. Burnham announces an end to rough sleeping. So through his plans for regional devolution, won't this be the problem for mayors and councils to tackle? Well, it goes beyond that argument, actually, because here's the interesting thing. He's going to give more powers to mayors and local councils in his idea to increase devolution, but they're the ones that have allowed the problem of rough sleeping to be exaggerated across the UK. So why? That doesn't make sense. Andy Pandy will go grey first before getting this country back on its feet, says Stevie. That's very technical. Morning, Alan. It's not Christian's dad, by the way. No DNA test here. Morning, Al.
Morning, JK. Big Al from Swansea, yeah? My take on this Burnham character, well, proof will be in the pudding. It's like when the last election, everybody voted for Labour. Oh, everything but Conservative, let's vote, we don't care. It's the same with this character now. Anybody but Starmer, we give him a go. At the end of the day, we don't care what he's going to say. 2 or 3 years, we'd all vote in reform. Nothing will change our mind. It'll be the same, right, let's just get this character out. Because we don't trust them. The Uni Party, don't trust them. But the positive for me, that hideous Lami's gone. That evil Hermer's gone, and Starmer, the worst PM in history, is gone. Good riddance, and we sit back and watch the circus unfold. Keep up the great show, buddy. Ta-da.
I love him. Big Al from Wales. I'm delighted now. I should feel quite honoured. He owes me a pint. Next, Reform UK's MP for Ashfield and the new chairman of Reform UK, Lee Anderson. A very good morning, my friend.
Morning, Jezza.
How are you?
Yeah, I feel good, mate. Well, I feel good. It's a beautiful day up here in Ashfield, but clear blue skies. But I think there's a dark cloud descending on the rest of the country. The cloud of Burnham.
I must say, I'm going to start slightly light-hearted. There's a wonderful meme going around, which I talked about earlier, and it's got the king shaking the hands of Andy Burnham, and it says, Andy Burnham. The last time I said that was when I got my brother to deal with his porn stash, which is actually quite funny. Anyway, there we go. Lee, my friend, today, we sort of look at what happened yesterday. We talk about communication. The bar was so low. OK, that yes, it seemed to be quite orchestrated nicely and fine, but we'd start to dig beneath the surface. And it amazes me. You can talk about rough sleeping, he can do his VAT thing I've already talked about today. But if you knocked on any door in your Ashfield constituency, you and I both know, people will want to know about immigration, the welfare budget, net zero, a rape gang inquiry, and the things that really matter, like the cost of living. Didn't mention any, Lee. Nothing.
Yeah, and immigration, and all of those things you said, Jeremy. But the main thing here for me is he's announced this biggest change in politics for 40 years, and also he's going to draft up this 10-year plan. Look, he wasn't the Labour government wasn't elected on this. If he's going to come up with something as huge as a 40-year plan or a change in politics, then surely he has to do the right thing and ask the British public to vote for it. If he's as confident in these policies and these plans as he says he is, then surely, if it's a good thing, the British public will vote for it. But he knows that they won't.
I mean, that's the point, because all that everybody's been saying this morning, mate, is what is the change? I mean, it's very admirable to stand there and in a woolly, vacuous way go, we have failed you, we have let you down. Yeah, we know that, but the very fact that you wouldn't touch upon stopping the boats or you wouldn't talk about the welfare bill and all the things I just said shows that we're just going to get much of the same with a bit of window dressing. We're just moving the deck chairs on the Titanic, many people are saying this morning.
Yes, well, that's quite right, Jeremy. All he's done, if you think of it as a failing football team, relegation fodder, all he's done is pick the same players, but put them in different positions. Yeah. That's all he's done. I mean, look at some of them. They've been around for donkey's years. We've got a couple of newbies in there. Like your last caller said, the good news is he's got rid of Mastermind Lammy, and also Miliband. He's stuck him on a fossil fuel guzzling jet to drive around the world. He'll be wagging his finger at all sorts of superpowers, embarrassing our great country. But it's the same people. I said it yesterday. It's just a circus. It's a different circus, but the same clowns.
Here's a question for you, which I think is really interesting. He brought, and I know it's a headline, you know, Louise Hay, convicted fraudster, now back as the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster and First Secretary of State. Extraordinary. I mean, honestly, I'm all for people being rehabilitated, but you'd tell the truth, wouldn't you? You can see her on screen. We've got our Ange back. There were rumours of health, but that didn't materialise. She's back with a housing brief, but an increased amount of responsibility for devolution. Somebody asked me to ask you this. Isn't it true that when a minister gets sacked for whatever reason, they get 17 grand severance pay? Do these two women then pay that money back as they're back in the cabinet?
Well, one thing I can say about Louise is she is a conviction politician. And yes, you're quite right, they do get a huge lump sum. You've got a conviction politician done for fraud in charge of propriety and ethics. You couldn't make that one up. We've got our Ange. She's in charge of housing now. She couldn't even make her mind up which council house she owned just a year or so ago. So, I mean, it's a bit rich coming from this government. They said they were going to clean things up when they got elected. It's more of the same. And, you know, the public out there be looking at this, scratching their heads. And he talks about this, you know, this reduction in VAT on people's bills as well. That's nothing. That's about 75 pence a week. As the Youssef said this week, that means that every household in the country can go buy a stick of celery every week. I mean, it's absolute nonsense.
It's really interesting, isn't it, that we've got to a point. I was going to say this to you, Lee, that you know, and Nigel's experiencing this right now. I've always been a great advocate, if you like, for the British public. I know you have as well. I think they've been taken for fools for too long. I think the political class has thought, oh, yeah, they don't matter. I think, you know, the expenses scandal woke people up. I remember reading, Lee, for ages, oh, the British public don't. The silent majority have worked out their voices to be heard. And I bang on about this every single day. That VAT announcement this morning is absolute living proof. You think you're going to get away with saying, we're going to get rid of VAT at 5%, that's 40 quid or whatever. I must have had 200 texts within half an hour going, yeah, but hold on a minute, it's going up by 13%. You can't pull the wool over the British people's eyes anymore. And that's why somebody like Burnham, the window dressing might be good, but the minute people get their teeth into the detail, they're going to suss it out, man. They're going to suss it out.
And this is why 40% of the population, Jeremy, never bother voting in general elections. They're just fed up. They go to the ballot box every 4 or 5 years, vote for something and get something completely different. And they get fed up. They just don't believe politicians. They don't believe Parliament. They don't believe the government. And they certainly don't believe what Andy Burnham's got to say. Like you say, this is a poultry cut in people's fuel bills. But, you know, he's already hinted and said that he's going to maybe ask for more money. We all know what that means, Jeremy. It means the people that get up in the morning, the white van man, the factory worker, the bricklayer, the plumber, the electrician, they're going to have to dig deep and find a little bit more out of their pocket to pay for these madcap ideas which this government will come out with.
It's true. One thing that people know that's going on at the moment, we know Nigel is being investigated. We know the election in Clacton is taking place. I was sat there last night thinking to myself, and you know, I get told, oh, you know, you say these things to reform. I've held everybody's feet to the fire, but here's something I couldn't understand. How can the Labour government or the establishment criticise reform for taking a donation from George Cottrell, who is he was convicted for wire fraud, but he served his time, and they've just put a convicted fraudster into the cabinet? It's a bit duplicitous, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. And you just touched there, Jeremy, on Clacton. I was in Clacton yesterday and a few days ago campaigning with Nigel, knocking on doors, talking to people in the towns and villages. And you know what? All this nonsense that's been spun out in the media and by the Labour Party and the Tory Party at the moment about Nigel and reform, it didn't get mentioned once on the doorstep. Not a single person, even the people that don't support us, never mentioned it once. So, you know, it makes
what
you
are they
wonder
mentioning, Lee? What? Because I think this is where we should all be at politically. You tell me, you were in... What are people on the doorstep saying? I suspect I know, but what are they talking about?
Well, I spoke to a white van man yesterday, an heating engineer, and he spoke about, he was furious that he was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day, coming home at 6, 7 o'clock at night, doing a shift, working 6 and 7 days a week. And he was furious as to where his tax was going, paying for illegal migration, paying for people on benefits, paying for DEI, diversity roles in public services. This is typical, Jeremy, of people all around the country who are working hard and they want value for money. And at the moment, their money is being spaffed up the wall on silly little government projects. It's being spaffed up the wall on illegal migrants. And they're furious. Yeah. They're absolutely furious. They want the government to spend their money wisely. And if there's one thing the government can't do, is spend money wisely.
There's a thing that always comes out when I'm doing this as well. You'd know this from your experiences in the job, but I get people saying to me a word, the same word every day, unfairness. There's a lack of fairness in the way the system is. And we can have arguments about how easy it is for people to get here or how we wipe their backsides and lay out a benefits. I mean, yesterday, in one of the last things the nasal night did, they agreed to double foreign aid to 11 billion quid, right? We've got no ships, we've got no bloody prisons. And I hear every day people going, oh, this is a good thing. No, it's not. It's an absolute... To me, the British people are going, sorry? We've got problems here. There's 11 billion pounds, Lee. There's 11 billion quid you could spend. Yeah. It's ludicrous.
11 billion pounds straight away, and it's a shocker, Jeremy. But it did something, you know, not as bad, but you know, something that left a bitter taste in my mouth last week. Is he made Sadiq Khan a lord, so you can watch this space on that one. That was a final kick in the old whatever for the British public. There's a man who single-handedly, in my opinion, destroyed London, absolutely ruined our beautiful capital city. He gets made a knight and now he's a lord. I mean, it's just, they are taking the mick out of the great British public.
But this is what I want to ask you, though, this is because you know this, your fingers on the pulse, you're there in your constituency. The average, you know, the alarm clock Brits, the one we broadcast to every day, the people that we all talk about, do you not feel that all politicians, most politicians, I should say, underestimate the British public? Because I've never underestimated them. They're either with you or they're against you, but they're bloody solid and they're bob on usually, to be fair.
Yeah, 100% there, Jamie. The British public, I would say the silent majority have got the loudest voice at the ballot box. Look, nobody wanted a Labour government. The British public didn't really, but they wanted a Tory government even less at the last election, and they went out in their millions and punished the Tory party for 14 years of failure. We got 4.1 million votes at the last election. We had no money in the bank. We had, not a very good infrastructure. And, fast forward 2 years, the British public are listening to reform. We swept the board at the local elections in May. We did the same next year. We're up for 10,000 seats in the elections next year. And people are slowly but surely listening to this third party that's come along and actually speaking their language. It's not difficult, Jeremy. I come home every weekend, go to my local pub, go to the clubs, go to my shopping centre, meet people, do my surgery, listen to real people in the real world, and then go back and ask the questions that they're asking. And the problem we've got with Parliament, it doesn't represent the country. They're too busy lecturing people, wagging their finger at people, telling people what they should think and what they should do. It's all wrong.
What do you make of the number 10 up north? What do you make of that? Is that just window dressing, or is that a good thing?
I mean, what's it going to actually achieve? We've got mayors we've got mayors all over the country. We've got local councils all over the country. We've done all this. I mean, why have a number 10 in the north? It makes no sense at all, unless that is that Andy Burnham doesn't like coming to London.
Or working from home, as somebody said. So the message is for people, from you. Keep challenging. I mean, that VAT thing is classic this morning. You've got to... what I don't want, I don't care what your political persuasion is, not you. I'm talking about the public. I don't want us anymore to be a nation that just accepts stuff and then realise before it's too late that these politicians... I'm afraid there's a lot of BS. There is. And they need to be honest with it. I said to somebody the other day, do you know what I want in a politician? I want somebody to stand in front of me and go, just before we start, I'm not squeaky clean. I've been married twice. I've done this. I'm sure I'd smoked a joint at some point. I probably got drunk a couple of times and won a couple of bets. But here's what I'm going to say. There's a plan, right? I'm going to explain that plan to you. I'm going to stand on that plan. I promise you, if I get elected, I'm going to do that plan. If I fail, I'll walk, and if I don't, we'll carry on. But I'm going to be honest with you, day in, day out, the good, the bad and the ugly. To me, politics has just become, Lee, all about, if a focus group says do this, you'll do it. No conviction, nothing from here, man. That's what I want. That's what I think the British public want.
Yeah, of course they do. They want straight talking. They want people to be honest. And if you make a mistake and you hold your hands up and say sorry, most of the British public will accept that. We are a very tolerant people in our great nation. We understand that, people do have problems. Sometimes they do make mistakes. Sometimes we do get it wrong. But just be honest and do your best and put the British people first. And you spoke earlier, Jeremy, about fairness. And it is unfair, our society, but it's people... People are looking, especially in places like Ashfield, where I represent, they look at the amount of money we're spending on illegal migrants. They look at the amount of money we're spending on benefits. They look at some of the illegal migrants coming over and committing awful crimes, and nothing seems to get done about it. And it's their money, it's their hard-earned cash that's paying for all this.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Listen, great to have you on. Enjoy Ashfield. You're on recess, but you're out there doing the business. I mean, you shouldn't be on recess. We should all be in Parliament talking to the new Prime Minister, shouldn't we?
Exactly right. He's faced no scrutiny, Jeremy, since he got elected. He's dodged and dived away from the media. He's not done a PMQs. I've not seen him in the chamber. And probably the first time he does get any scrutiny will be the first week in September when we're back. We're only back for 10 days, and then we've got another 3 or 4 weeks off for conference recess. So really, he's not going to face any sort of real scrutiny until the middle of October.
It's crazy. Mate, great to have you on. Thank you so much indeed. Brilliant. Lee Anderson, Reform MP for Ashfield and Chairman of Reform UK. Great to have him on Jeremy Carl's Breakfast Show. 0344, why am I tearing that up? 499 1000 for your calls and your voice notes. 87222, start your message with the word talk. Because we mentioned Nigel Farage and discussed the doorsteps issue in Clacton, Lee brought it up there, I have to provide you with a candidates list. The by-election is not the 17th of July. The by-election is on the 13th of August. The 13th of August is the by-election. Here is a list of all the candidates. It is long, but I've got to read it straight. Joseph, 77 for the Independents. Adam Akatip, the Forward Party. Count Binface, the Count Binface Party. Nick, the Incredible Flying Brick, the official Munster Raving Loony Party. Tony Kane is an independent. Woke Trump Kazi is an independent. William Stewart James Colston for the Social Democratic Party. Rhys Cohn is an independent. Glenn Charles Cummings is an independent. Martin Davis, Freedom Alliance, Real People, Real Alternative. Andy Earlham, an independent. Nigel Farage for Reform UK. Tia Fard, an independent. Lawrence Fox, the Reclaim Party. Tony Francis is independent. Robin Green, independent. Abby Hookway, independent. Howling Lord Hope from the Official Monster Raving Loony Party. Stephen Richard Ingram, an independent. Amy Morris, an independent. Derek Norbert and Morris is an independent. Michael Noel O'Keefe is an independent. Martin O'Brien is an independent. Nick Pellis, an independent. I hope I've got this right. Ketun Kumar Pipalia, UK Voice Safe and Stronger UK. Daniel Pocock, an independent. James Ransley, the Consensus Party candidate. Jerry Smith, the independent. Kay Stevens, British Democrats. John Stevens rejoined the EU. Baron von Thunderclap, the Official Monster Raven Loony Party. Pamela Wolford's an independent. Marcus White, Everyone is a God Party, and Mark Wilkinson, an independent. That's your lineup for the Clacton by-election. Takes place on Thursday, August the 13th. You are with Talk Breakfast, back in 3.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
Something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:25. Julia Hartley-Brewer here from 10 o'clock. Ian Collins, has he recovered from the illness? The poor bugger wasn't well. Oh, no, it's not. Ian is still unwell. Listen, can we big this up at 1 o'clock this afternoon? Hinge to my bracket. Charlie Rowley on afternoons. Top. Give him a listen from 1 o'clock. And Kevin O'Sullivan on Drive. Charlie, you owe me. 0344. Foot's cheap. 0344, I'm joking. 499 1000. Text to 87222. Let's say a very good morning to a man who's been studiously ignoring me for 2 weeks because apparently he's far too busy and forgets that I actually got him the job in the first place. Jack Elson, political editor of The Sun. Good morning, dear boy. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Jeremy. Didn't have much sleep last night. I was up to the early hours with Andy Burnham's big by-election. But you know what? I was very tempted to. So I'm getting loads of feedback here. I was very. God, it's awful. I've never been in it like this before. I can hear myself speak on like a 5 second.
So
delay.
now you know what hell we go through.
Well, what I was going to say is that I was very tempted to mention one of the candidates in that by-election, so you'd have to read out all those ridiculous names again. But I thought, obviously, I wouldn't do that to you. But no, it's been a busy day. It's been a busy one
the
today.
good thing about the list of elections, I love your honesty, and this is how this show will always be. The good thing is that if you read them once, we record it. But did anybody pick up on the most ironic thing? Amongst an announcement of 33 bloody candidates in Clacton, the only name I got wrong was Nigel Farage. I said Nigel Reform from the Farage Party. That in itself is quite ironic, isn't it? But there we go.
Well, if he loses now to Screaming Lord Such or whatever the monster raving loony chap is, then you've only got yourself to blame.
Yeah, it'll be my fault, Jack.
Yeah.
Some would say a monumental day yesterday. I know you've seen a few. Just my take. I'm going to bring back hope. Biggest challenge in changes in politics in 40 years. Ruled out a general election. People are jumping up and down talking about a mandate. What was your overview? I've got lots of things to ask you, but what was your overview of yesterday?
I think it typified Andy Burnham's approach so far, which is giving us a lot of language, a lot of pretty vacuous platitudes, a lot of vision, like you said, biggest change to politics in 40 years. I don't think we got much in the way of substance, and I don't think we're going to get much in the way of substance for some time, because when he stood up to become Labour leader last Friday, he said, "Don't worry, chaps, I have a plan."
Yep.
And many of us who didn't think he had much of a plan, because he hadn't spelled it out throughout the Makerfield by-election or throughout his Labour leadership coronation, didn't discern much of a plan. And then yesterday, so he did have a 10-year plan, but we're going to have to wait till later in the year for it. And you just think that, for someone who's been planning this now for well over a year, you think they might come into number 10 and hit the ground running. And it does seem that the only announcement they haven't made so far, scrapping digital ID to fund a 5% VAT cut on energy bills, has crashed on impact, because it turns out the digital ID program wasn't funded in the first place. And so, I think at the moment he's sketched out the broad brushstrokes of what he wants to do, but in terms of putting meat on the bones, we are really, really left lacking any substance here.
Can I ask you a question? Because you've touched upon something that, we're sat here this morning. Yesterday is going to end Sleeping Rough, and there isn't anybody with a brain cell that doesn't think it's disgusting, right? And it sounds great. He did it on the first day in Manchester as a mayor. And let me tell you, because the facts have proven it, it has doubled in Manchester. If you go to Manchester, rough sleeping has doubled in the 7 years that Burnham was, or 10 years that he was the mayor. That is a fact. Slight dip at the beginning, it's doubled. He makes that announcement yesterday. Immediately there's a target on his back. I don't know if you saw that amazing footage from the other week, a sort of shanty town of migrants just off Park Lane. Samara Gill, our reporter, and a cameraman attacked. Appalling. Probably pickpockets there. Is he going to go and drag those people off the street? Probably not. This is really interesting when you talked about VAT. We start 6 o'clock, 6:15. Andy Burnham tweets, on the front foot, "I'm announcing a fresh tax cut to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills." I've talked long and hard about how the British public have sussed stuff out. Immediately, people are going, let me get this right, Jess. So your average bill's 800 quid, 5%, which is domestic VAT, is 40 quid. That's OK, but also bear in mind that it's going up by 13%, right? And then, straight away, a political argument, not 11 hours since he walked into Downing Street. John Healey, the new Chancellor, puts today's energy tax cut will give families some breathing room on bills and provide reassurance this winter. This will be funded, this is important, from the cancelled digital ID scheme this year, hoping to bring down inflation, while supporting households in every postcode. And as quick as lightning, Darren Jones, who yesterday was sacked, Starmer's closest aide, wrote, "It's good news that VAT will be cut on energy bills. It's a simple way for families to save a few quid and to mechanically help to keep inflation a bit lower. But, underline, the digital ID programme was unfunded. The government is going to have to set out how it will pay for its new policies at the budget." Straight away, my question to you is, have we been misled by Mr Burnham on day one of him being Prime Minister? Because it's a lie, isn't it?
Well, as a Labour source and Starmer ally got in touch with me earlier, they said, turns out revenge is a dish served piping hot, because, Darren Jones has only been out of his job for a few hours, sacked by Andy Burnham, and now he seems to be coming back with a vengeance. You would think that Darren Jones, who yesterday was in charge of our digital ID scheme, would know exactly whether it was funded or not, and wouldn't be coming out saying it hadn't been funded if it wasn't true. And clearly now this is going to be a problem for Andy Burnham. If he doesn't get everything right, cross every T, dot every I, make sure all of his numbers add up, he has now created a rump of enemies on the back benches who clearly are going to waste no time calling him out, making life very difficult. Andy Burnham came in here, said he wants to end point scoring, infighting and briefing. Maybe his plan is to end the behind the closed doors briefing by doing it all in public anyway, airing their dirty laundry in public, which is what Labour are doing this morning. This is day one. This is day one in the job in terms of his full day in office. And already we are being hit with a Labour row because it seems, from now anyway, that Andy Burnham hasn't got his sums to add up.
Well, whether he's got his sums added up or he was trying to mislead the public. I mean, you're absolutely right. He walked into Downing Street 12, 13 hours ago, 15 hours ago. I mean, for Darren Jones to come out, I mean, people will go, oh, he's sore and he's bitter, but you make a really salient point. Up until yesterday, he was in charge of the digital ID plan. That's his choice. Burnham decides to exit, but it didn't cost any money. So it's astonishing. And you're so right. Because of... for me, because of the way the British public saw the Tory 14 years end, where we ended up, I think, most of us thinking we don't believe a word you say, you don't do what you're going to say. I think there was massive scrutiny on Starmer. I think he made some huge mistakes. I don't apologise for this opinion. I think he was out of his depth. Probably there isn't a shred of sympathy because I know what he did to our veterans. It does my head in and our pensioners. I can't have it. But this guy, you would expect, as you said, everything to be just razor sharp, sorted out, organised. Day one for... I mean, what about the Speaker? I'm waiting for the Speaker to say to him, hold on a second, policy announcements should be made through the House. You wouldn't come to the House and face scrutiny. You're doing it all through the press. He's going to get an absolute telling off as well when he gets to the Commons.
Well, he's not even doing it through the press, Jeremy, because he's not really taking many questions from us. It's all very well putting out a press release and saying, here's what I want to do. But as Darren Jones has gone to show, scrutiny is everything. And actually, really putting someone through their paces and shining the spotlight on them, that's where you get tested in politics. And that's where things either survive or they go to die. And at the moment, he's not really facing much of the press. He's not facing MPs in the House of Commons because, if he was sure of himself and wanted to get on the front foot, wouldn't a great gesture be to say, sorry, MPs, we have long summer holiday breaks. I'm going to extend the parliamentary sitting term for just a few days more. I'm going to take all of your questions. I know I don't have a mandate from the people. I don't have a mandate even from Labour members because I didn't fight an election. What I will do, because I owe it to you, is come here and answer all of your questions on behalf of your constituents for just a few days more, and then we can go away for the summer.
Absolutely.
Because I think that that would have been such a... It would have come from a position of strength, and it would have sort of projected confidence and sure-footedness. But at the moment, it looks like he's just retreating.
I couldn't agree more. And the minute you make problems for yourself, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I haven't even asked you this. This sent me as loopy as anything when I found this out. Not only will he not speak to any of the media, journalists like you, who all politicians give time to, right? The only interview he did was a sit-down with Gary Bloody Lineker on the Goalhanger podcast. The next Prime Minister. What? The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I think you're right. I think he certainly owes the House, where our elected representatives are there to ask him questions. But the minute, of course, that you put a target on your back with ending rough sleeping, or you make an act, it's brilliant VAT, and people pull it apart, then you're on the back foot. I'll tell you the next thing that's going to jump on his head. I'm not for all the headlines. Oh, I've put what did it say in the thing? Put a convicted fraudster in charge of his leftist agenda. That's true. That's on the front of the Mail. Louise Haigh, Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster and First Secretary of State, almost number 2, I would suspect. His enforcer, we're reading, the woman who 16 months ago had to resign because she forgot to tell Starmer she got a conviction for fraud. I just want to ask you a question. She was booted out of the cabinet, as was Angela Rayner, for not paying her stamp duty. They were both given 17 grand in severance. You wait till people start saying to Burnham, are they bloody well paying that 34 grand back? Because that's not going away either.
No, of course it won't. And what we saw yesterday is the comeback of two people, Angela Rayner and Lou Hay, who obviously had to resign from Keir Starmer's last government in scandal. And what I don't understand with this is the politics of it, especially with Lou Hay. I mean, clearly, she has been at Burnham's side now for quite a while. She revealed in that interview with Nick Robinson last week that she'd actually been plotting for about a year to bring Starmer down and install Burnham in number 10. So clearly she's at the heart of the Burnham project. But at the moment, the Labour Party have actually landed some blows on the Reform Party over this business with Christopher Harborne, over this business with George Cottrell. They have said, why are you hanging around with a convicted fraudster? Now,
just said it to Lee Anderson. You've got a leg to stand on now, have you?
Now the riposte is going to be, I may hang around with a convicted fraudster. You've put one in the cabinet. And so I think this is just, in terms of the raw politics of it, it does seem on shaky ground now, because will it weaken their ability to go after reform? Now, if Louise Hay does a fantastic job in the Cabinet Office, then more power to her elbow. But at the moment, this Cabinet, I think some of the appointments have been good. I think that John Healey, clearly a fiscal hawk. Shabana Mahmood keeping her in the Home Office. Often it feels that she has been swimming against the tide in her own party and trying to actually force through.
I think that was a big. I think those two were as high as it gets. I mean, I saw your old mucker Harry saying that there are already mutterings in Washington DC about Ed Miliband as the Foreign Secretary. To me, that was to sort of neuter him and push him out the way. I don't know what his replacement, Miata Fambula, that's the energy sector, what she thinks about net zero. Do we know anything about that?
She is basically Ed Miliband's protege, so it's going to be basically continuity Miliband in that department. She's a very sort of left-winger, she's an energy crusader, and so I think we can imagine the net zero policy to be more or less the same. I think what's going to happen, what will be interesting to see is whether these two oil and gas fields, the Jackdaw and the Rosebank oil field, which already have licenses, they don't need a new license, whether they'll be granted. You can imagine some movement on that, but in terms of the wider North Sea policy, there is not going to be a lifting of the ban on new licenses to being issued, which clearly Donald Trump was expecting, because when he tweeted the weekend saying they're going to open up the North Sea all the way, the people of Aberdeen are dancing in the street, clearly he posted that under false pretenses, because that is not going to be the plan whatsoever, and it's been shut down already. But yeah, Ed Miliband clearly being packed off to the Foreign Office, spending time abroad. I mean, isn't it ironic, by the way, that the Eco Crusader is going to be going on gas-guzzling flights probably every other week.
And I'll tell you the other irony, and I'd love to know if this is true. The rumour is that Rachel Thieves was offered, unbelievably, the Defence Secretary's job and turned it down. And we could have had a scenario where John Healey, who resigned because Rachel Reeves wouldn't give him enough money for defence, was going to have to then have her to come to him and say, I need more money for defence. What would he have said? I think he's a very shrewd appointment, because that's Burnham saying this. You want more money for defence? You go and find it for me. That's quite clever.
Yeah, no, I think it is quite smart. I mean, neither Rachel's team or Burnham's team are confirming about whether or not she was offered defence or not. Do you know what? I find it very hard to believe that she would turn down the job of Defence Secretary. I mean, that is a job which she could probably get her teeth stuck into. Her and John Healey may have been able to find the money to plug that 15 billion or so black hole. All we know is that she was offered a big job, quote unquote, but what that is, we don't know. I struggle to believe it was Defence Secretary. I think she probably would have taken that. But instead she decided not to take anything and made a beeline to the pub with Keir Starmer last night.
They were in the pub. So overall, my friend, brilliant coverage as ever with The Sun. We don't want to be cynical. We're patriots. We want our country to succeed. But for me, yeah, the communication is better. Anything would be better communication than Starmer. How long do you give him? Do you think he can change British politics, or will he crash and burn them? See what I did there? Because actually, he's going to be in as much hock to the different factions of the Labour Party as Starmer was, because there's so many different factions that's what happens.
This is exactly what I write in my column in The Sun today, is that I remember when Labour MPs were fawning over Keir Starmer, they looked at him with the same affection, confected affection, as they do now for Andy Burnham. And they turned on him because Keir Starmer didn't really give them what they wanted and clearly collapsed in the polls. They will not hesitate to try and get Andy Burnham, who, by the way, they see as one of their soft left brigade, to fund all of the various hobby horses, wish list spending that they want to do. If he goes along with that, he's quickly going to find that the economic reality kicks in. We're spending £1 in every £12 just paying off our national debt. There's going to be big battles along the way in terms of welfare, in terms of both legal and illegal migration. And often the interests and priorities of Labour MPs pull against the interests and priorities of voters. If Andy Burnham wants to survive in the job, he needs to govern in the interests of the country, because there's one thing Labour MPs don't like more than anything, and that is sinking in the polls. And so he really needs, I think, to sort of show his mettle in this job, stand his ground. That Makerfield test, which he talked about, that should be, I think, his guiding light, because if the good folk of Makerfield think, yeah, you know what, if a policy goes down well, of a dog and duck on a Friday night, that's probably a good indication. If it's being lapped up in the tea rooms by Labour MPs, maybe not so much.
You are so good. And by the way, it's a brilliant article, my friends. Matey PM must get ruthless. He's king of the castle now, but dethroning is an occupational hazard for PMs these days. Jack Elsom on page... What page is it? 10 or 12?
Page 12, I think. Today.
Page 12. He is the man, the political editor of the Sun. Thank you so much, my friend. I hope that the ring back or the whatever it is in your ear was OK. What is it? 18 minutes to 9. We're live across the UK. Talk breakfast. Julia here from 10. Morning, Nigel.
Morning, Jeremy. Nigel from Brighton here. Thank you for you and your guests calling out all this Burnham propaganda being propagated on the national Burnham Bounce channel. But that's just a small percentage of the population. The main rump of the population get their political information passively, and the BBC is the biggest contributor to this. Their messaging really lands, and it's through their various channels and reposts on social media that people get this information. So I think we're being led. We're being led up to an early election, and this is all a playbook that's playing out. So let's just see if I'm right. I think there'll be an election called really soon. Anyway, great show. Nigel from Brighton.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 9:45. We're live across the United Kingdom. Talk, of course, the home of common sense and the home of you, the alarm clock Brit. Thank you for tuning in today. Loads of you texting. JK Carl from the Lakes up north. It's not really, though, is it? If Bernard wants to stop rough sleeping, can I make a suggestion? Why doesn't he deport immigrants from this country, get them out the hotels and the HMOs and put our homeless people in there? Do you know what? What a shockingly simple, commonsensical approach. Imagine that actually happening. Hi, Jez. Since Labour took the reins, my council tax has increased by over 10%. My energy bills by around 24%. My food bill by 15%. Diesel by 15%. And my salary has gone up 2%. Scrap net zero. Scrap foreign aid. Scrap benefits for anxiety. Scrap motability for anyone that isn't physically disabled. And stop benefit payments for anyone that hasn't paid any bloody tax. Stick sick to the back teeth of paying for vanity projects and nice to be nice payments. What a fantastic summing up, Steve, of where we're at. Burnham entering number 10 reminded me, says Sandra Harris, of Love Actually when do you remember when old Hugh danced? I don't know if he can dance. I can't, so I'm not to judge. I look like... No. Diane Park in Huddersfield. Is she in a park in Huddersfield or is she called Diane Park? VAT off fuel bills is peanuts, which needs to happen... What needs to happen is cancel standing charges, which are more than the electric I used. Morning, Jez. Hearing your tale about Iris and your car, my son in his early teenage years cleaned my car with a scouring pad. Exactly what can you say, says Debbie in Redhill. Not a lot if you were tuning in. My daughter yesterday decided to draw a picture, apparently. She's away with her mother and brother and grandparents. My wife phoned me up. She decided to draw a picture on the side of a brand new BMW with a stone, and nobody noticed. Brilliant. So today's show fee has been donated to BMW UK. Morning, Jez. How long will it be until Andy Pandy is blaming Mrs Thatcher for a fiscal black hole, says Bert in Tooting. Not long, I suspect. My friend Rob's in Burnley. In the absence of a general election, I've tried to give Burnham the benefit of the doubt. Seems a more relatable bloke than Starmer. He made a mistake. He made a speech about mistakes being made. Seems to be a bit more honest. Yeah, that's fair enough. Didn't start too well today, though, did he? Johnny S. I don't know why people do that. Johnny S. from up north. Everybody's down saying up north.
He's in Ipswich, is he? I don't know. When Crasham Burnham says he wants to bring the greatest change in years, why has no one picked up on that? If we have a Marxist revolution, that would be a great big change. His words are worryingly empty. And finally, Deborah, good morning. Gary Phyllis, good morning. And John, who says, I hope it's not a bad omen and history repeating itself, having John Healey as the new Chancellor. The last Healey Chancellor, very good, had the UK begging the IMF to be bailed out because we were skint. Maybe Burnham is right and we are going back to the 70s. John from Wapping. Dennis Healey, of course, he of the eyebrows, was the Chancellor when we went hand in cap, or cap in hand, I should say, to the IMF. Let's go now. Delighted to have him on. My next guest, Lord Robert Hayward, Tory peer, pollster and political analyst. A very good morning to you, sir. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
Well, I'm all right. I'm in a studio that's akin to a sauna. It's a bit hot, but we're getting through it. Thank you very much indeed. Your take on yesterday, Robert, an extraordinary day politically. I was saying earlier that, you know, presentation-wise, the bar was so low that I think it could only have been improved by Andy Burnham, but it seems already this morning a few things are falling by the wayside.
Absolutely, I'd agree with that. We had what seemed like half of London in Downing Street being hugged and kissed and all the rest of it. And then the other half of London seemed to be inside the doors of number 10 Downing Street, clapping him into the office. When you become Prime Minister, you face a series of difficulties, but Andy Burnham had the opportunity to prepare for them. And yet, as you've just identified, there's a series of errors that have already been made, and several of them shouldn't have been made. The rough sleeping figures, the comments in Darren Jones, revenge from somebody who's been sacked, and an interesting change in structure, which you identified, which is that Louise Haigh, as cabinet minister, is being listed as the number 2 in the list of cabinet ministers.
First Secretary of State.
Yes. Traditionally, we have regarded the 4 key officers of state as Chancellor, Home Secretary, Foreign Secretary and Prime Minister. We suddenly have a very different structure, and that has a lot of implications as well.
It's interesting, actually, because you're right. We haven't had word yet about Deputy Prime Minister, and I wonder whether there'll be one, whether it will be that Louise Haigh, you know, in essence, just accedes to that role. I touched upon this with Lee Anderson from Reform, and this is a straight-down-the-middle comment. There's no doubt that Nigel Farage has felt a bit of heat recently about that donation. He says it was before I became an MP and awaits the Parliamentary Standards Committee, which, of course, is made up of Tories, Liberal Democrats and the Labour Party and no Reform. But there we go. But it's very interesting for me that you just made the point, you know, you had long enough to sort this out, mate, right? You had long enough. The minute you stand on the steps of Downing Street saying, I'm going to end rough sleeping, everybody's going to look at your record in Manchester, it's doubled. The minute you say, I am cutting VAT off domestic electricity bills, it'll save you £40, then people dig because they're switched on and they go, but you're raising it by 13%. You've misled us already. And then we come to Louise Haigh and Angela Rayner. Explain to me how anybody in the Labour Party, Robert, is going to be able to attack Nigel Farage for having a relationship with George Cottrell, who, yes, committed a crime and served some time in America, when he's put a convicted fraudster at the very, not only the heart of his government, but possibly the second most powerful politician in the United Kingdom.
Well, there's no question about it. It weakens the argument. Obviously, Nigel Farage will use it. The Standards Committee has to take a view in relation to it. But it certainly provides Nigel Farage, Lee Anderson and Reform with an immediate response.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right in relation to that. The other thing, when you form a government, you have to plan on the basis that some people will either not want the job they're offered, or they'll just say, no, I don't want a job, or whatever. What is striking about this reshuffle is that, in effect, virtually, if not all the Starmerites have been removed and a new group of people brought in. When Liz Truss did much the same thing, it was all her mates. I warned at the time she was making a rod for her own back by not having a broad enough spectrum in that government. And I do fear genuinely that Andy Burnham seems to have almost made exactly the same error. We'll get rid of all the Starmerites, which leaves them on the backbench to plot.
Yeah.
And this morning, we have seen Darren Jones make that comment.
I mean, if anybody is just tuning in, I have to repeat this because Robert's right. I mean, it started with an announcement at 6:15 from Burnham. You know, I'm cutting VAT from domestic electricity bills. Straight away, John Healey, the new Chancellor, said this is fantastic. It will give families breathing space and reassurance and, you know, every household, blah, blah, blah. Straight away, not 16 hours after Burnham walked into Downing Street, he sacked lots of people, one of them Darren Jones, the Secretary of State for the Prime Minister, Starmer's greatest ally, went, good news that VAT will be cut on electricity bills. It's a simple way for families to save a few quid and mechanically to help keep inflation down. But, and this is the important bit because he was all over it, digital ID was unfunded. This government will now have to set out how it will pay for its new policies in the next budget. I mean, that is a knife between the shoulder blades within 16 hours, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's the sort of thing I'm afraid politicians have the opportunity, which other people in society don't have because they've got access to the media. They can let their complaints go public at a rapid rate of knots. And this is precisely what's happened here. And you will see that there's this group of sacked ministers, because there may well be more. We don't know. You know, I'm sorry, actually, that Jenny Chapman's gone in the Lords, but that's a...
I had Sam Rushworth on an MP at 7 o'clock, good enough to come on. I think Bishop Stortford, I think, is Bishop Auckland is his constituency. I wouldn't say he was lukewarm, but he wasn't effusive in his praise. And he said, you know, this new government that's engineered itself in place and got rid of so many is going to have to explain itself to the British people.
Absolutely. And this is the difficulty. Any reshuffle leaves aggrieved people.
Yeah.
But if you set about having a complete block of aggrieved people, which is what appears to be the case here, then you are guaranteed to be heading for all sorts of problems.
Just quickly, as a pollster, and you guys as a pollster, there was a report yesterday or the day before that there'd been a Burnham bounce. He'd been up 5% and Labour was level with Reform for the first time in months. Is that him? Is that naturally, thank God, Starmer's gone? Do you believe that Reform are on the dropping down and Labour are on the rise, or is that a false look? Just your view on that, Robert, quickly.
It is. There's no question the thank God Starmer's not there factor will work in Andy Burnham's favour. There is a steady apparent decline in the Reform vote. Whether the Burnham bounce lasts, I'm not so sure, given the way we've started already. I have serious doubts.
How long do you... I mean, you're a Tory peer, you're an experienced man. How long do you... I mean, I think the shine will be off by Christmas, and I'm not being cynical because I'm a patriot. I want my country to succeed. What's your view? Is he in for the long term, or is he actually in a precarious position because of how he got the job in the first place?
I wanted Starmer to succeed in the interest of the country. I want Burnham to succeed in the interest of the country. But I'm afraid, given the way we've started, that's not a good omen at all. And I think, unless we see real changes, that bounce will erode by Christmas, if not before.
Lord Robert Hayward, thank you so much. It's always an absolute pleasure to have you on. Tory peer, pollster and political analyst, talking there about how Andy Burnham has had a year. A year of plotting, said Lou Haig, to get Starmer out and Burnham in. We know that Burnham's people wanted Starmer to stay till the end of the summer so he could be even more organised. But look, we're going to get a plan later in the year already this morning. That problem with VAT, infighting. Yesterday put a target on his back with, you know, cutting rough sleeping completely. But he apparently knows best. It's just going to be very interesting how this all folds out. And listen, on this station as ever, you know, the home of common sense, we will ask those questions. We're not trying to get off on the wrong footing with Andy Burnham, but it could be said about the VAT cut this morning that he's already misled the British public. Is that what you think? 87222, start your message with the word talk. Back in 3, don't go anywhere.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
Something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain?
Yeah.
Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the First Lady of Talk has arrived into the shower. What's it be, honestly,
I've brought
mate?
the aircon with me.
Christ.
I brought
She's
the
got
cold
the aircon
wind
done
with
by
me.
her. It's been like 20... it's not funny. You're
I
supposed
know,
to be
I know. I feel
sympathetic.
for you. I feel for you. This is
HR, she's felt for me. HR, quick,
It's
quick.
a very small glass
Oh,
box
mate.
to have.
And that
no aircon.
scream's roasting. It burns your back. But anyway, listen.
Anything else you want to moan about?
No, not at
Anyone
all.
would think you were cleaning the streets or down the mines, you moany ninny.
It's bloody hard being at Coalface.
Very hot.
But
Coalface,
don't
sitting
worry.
in a comfortable seat in a lovely building.
Andy's arrived and he cares about us Northerners. What do you make her? Yes.